Good evening, and welcome to our Tuesday, March 24th Town Council meeting. Before I call the meeting to order, just a couple of reminders. If you want to join the meeting via Zoom, you can do so by going to basalt.net, click on the Agendas and Minutes tab, and go to the March 24th meeting packet there, and you'll find instructions to join via Zoom, which will allow you to make public comment if you're so inclined. And with that, I will call the meeting to order. Pam, will you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Let's begin with Angela Anderson.
Here.
Rick Stevens.
Here.
Hannah Berman.
Here.
Angel Dupré-Bouchard.
Here.
Ryan Slack.
Here.
David Knight.
Here.
Dieter Schindler.
Here.
Motion. Everyone is here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have item 2, which is our consent agenda, consisting of item 2A, the minutes from February 24th, 2026. I'd approve, someone wants to make a motion, go for it.
Mayor, I move the town council approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Item 3 is our call to the public, and before we get started, some quick ground rules. Limit your comments to 3 minutes and address your comments directly to me. Identify yourself by name and address when making comments, and be sure to sign in the back of the room. Try to be courteous, civil, and constructive. And Town Council will make no decision nor take action except to direct the town manager. I know we have some public hearings on the agenda for this evening. If you want to speak on any of those topics, please wait till that public hearing so your comments can be linked to that topic. So with that, if anybody has any other topics, you're welcome to come up to the podium.
Hi, my name is Stacy Stokes. I live at 221 East Few Lane, and I am here to attempt to implore you to make that a one-way street going into Southside with a 5 or 6 foot concrete pedestrian, stroller, bike path for everyone to get in and out of that neighborhood safely. I have watched multiple times where children have almost been hit, families have almost been hit. That's a wonderful access for people to leave Stotts Mill and Southside and walk into town and take their strollers and bikes. High schoolers as well, because they use Somerset. That's very dangerous. So it's my opinion, my neighbor's opinion, there's a couple of them, that the speed limit should be 15, because that technically is our driveway, with either speed bumps or speed dips, and then you have the big, good-sized pedestrian access, so that if in fact there is an emergency, that can be 2, maybe even 3 lanes to get people out. That being said, I would like to segue to the fact that I have found out over the last month, so I don't have a whole lot of information because I was quite shocked, that there is supposed to be another exit out of Stotts Mill, Southside, and the business center near Big O Tires, I guess. Something, my husband understands it better, but he couldn't come. To get people out of that area in 282. And right now, with the amount of density that has been approved over the last few years in Basalt, I've only lived here a few years. I grew up in the valley, but I've only been in Basalt a couple of years. And what I'm seeing is kind of scary, because if there is ever a fire, where there were fires when I was a kid in that grass, people can't get out. There is no way in hell that people can get out of the high school, out of Stotts Mill, and out of Southside in one direction. Even if you open Few Lane in 2 directions, it comes right into the highway and people can't get out. And it's not safe, and it's not fair to the people that just want a home. And I mean, my God, they live on top of each other. It's a really cute neighborhood, but it could get really, really bad. And I just feel like you guys have a responsibility. I've heard it's cost prohibitive. My taxes are cost prohibitive at this point, but I have to pay them. And I feel like you guys really, really have a responsibility to the people who live in this town to be able to get out. If something goes wrong, at least do the best possible thing you can for the residents of this town. And also at the same time, create a place where people have easy access to walk and not use their cars all the time, and take the bikes and ride bikes safely and not come through a daycare and not get hit by a car. I mean, what I have seen, and I know the cops have been there, and I know this and that and the whole other thing, I see it all day long. I work from my house. My kitchen looks right down on all 3 spots. I've seen accidents. I've seen frightening things with children. I've seen families be walking and someone coming around the corner and I hear shh on the rocks. Things need to happen. They really need to happen. And I know that part of it has to do with 555 Basalt Avenue. I don't think the whole few lane thing should wait. I think that we're coming up on summer, we've got concerts and all the other things, and I don't want to get redundant and ramble. I think you've got my point. And I really think that you have a financial responsibility and a safety responsibility to the residents who live over on that side of the highway. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Jillian Copps. I own Mountain Greenery over on Southside Drive, 185 Southside. And I've been to most of the meetings. I think I missed the first one. But my big concern is traffic. I think that it puts a lot of pressure on Basalt Avenue. We were able to originally get that right-hand designated turn lane, which works out well, but I think that, again, it's the only point on all of 82 that there's only one access from Basalt Avenue to the highway. Even Old Snowmass, you can go through the post office in an emergency. There's nowhere else on the entire highway where there's only one access point, and that seems dangerous to me as well. With all the new developments, at some point, they're going to have to either expand the high school or build, I don't know if they'll build a new one, but there's a lot of pressure on the infrastructure. And I would like to see another traffic study, which we wrote a letter about our HOA. I'm the vice president of the HOA. And I think to do it on peak season, both winter and summer, is really important. But let's see what's really going on, because they presented their case that they didn't think there would be more traffic with this new development than Myers currently has, and it's possible, but I would like to see the city do something about that and you know, another access point, agreeing with Stacy. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. And both of those, I suspect, pertain somewhat to 555 there. I would encourage you to make comments again when we get to that part of the meeting and that public hearing, so we can have that on the record for that, you know, for that process.
Sure.
Anyone else? All right, let's move on then to mayor and council reports and comments. Floor is open.
I have a public service announcement for Mother's Day lacrosse tournament at Crown Mountain, which is bringing about 90 teams into town for the weekend. So order your pizzas early and go grocery shopping on Thursday before the last show. So. May 9th and 10th, yeah.
I'd just like to extend a shout out to the chief, the new chief, Munch, and just the police force, and just all our staff. I'm sure Justin in Public Works has been working their butt off with everything going on in our new weather landscape, and it's just great. We're so lucky to have an amazing staff, and grateful for everyone here.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I wanted to, just remind everybody to get out and vote for the upcoming town election, and to wish the candidates that are participating best of luck.
Nice comment, thank you. What else? I don't have anything, so I will move on to item 4, our mayor and council reports and comments. I'm sorry, item 5, manager's report. Gloria.
Yeah, so the update on the Midland streetscape lighting is in your packet as requested. And so I wanted to point that out. Also wanted to point out we do have construction going on Emma Bridge. And so that'll be for the next 4 months. We're trying to keep it open as much as possible for the kids to be able to get to school and back. And also announced that the Basalt Police Community, the Basalt Police Community Police Academy is going to be June 18th through October 15th. So that's open and people can sign up. They can either go to, I think the easiest way is to go to the police Facebook page and sign up from there. So, and then also we received an email from Alan with Mountain Voice Project about contributing to another purchase of a mobile home park in Glenwood Springs. If the council, and I did put the information on your, it's called Cavern Springs, it's the Outlook, yep, that paper right there. And so if the council is interested, I can request that they present at your next meeting. If you are not interested, I can let them know. I also received a follow-up message before the meeting from John Fox Rubin clarifying that about 5% of Cabin Springs residents work exclusively in Basalt. So I wanted to get direction on this item.
Thoughts? I know both of us sit on different reasons, the West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition. And I think a lot of, the concern is the amount of money that municipalities have in order to kind of fund things like this is not, obviously it's not infinite. It's actually, was pretty big stretch last time. So unless there's a way we could do it, I would assume we can't do it. We need to politely tell them that.
What was their ask?
About 500, well, they asked to match what Carbondale did, and I think Carbondale did 600. Oh, it's 510. Yep, 510.
It's a lot of money.
Do you guys, this mobile home parks, it's like behind the Restore as you go down to Glenwood. So
Okay.
it's kind of between, it's kind of Cattle Creek-ish area, Thunder River Market area. I know that, there is a significant gap between the loan amount they'll get through Bissell and the amount they need to raise to kind of, to meet that gap. Carbondale, as Gloria said, is participating, and I think they're making the rounds. Snowmass was participating for 600. Eagle County is not participating. And I think West Mountain is now kind of getting involved to help.
There's a meeting
There's
tomorrow.
a meeting tomorrow, so
Okay.
I spoke to Gloria earlier today, and so I'll share with you what I shared with her, which is that this was discussed at our regularly scheduled board meeting for West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition 2 weeks ago. And then we have kind of a special board meeting tomorrow to further discuss it and truly determine what the coalition's involvement will be. I think David and I are of the opinion that the coalition does not have the capacity to make the same lift that they did
Right.
last time.
Yeah.
It was all consuming for the coalition and our very limited staff, which is just one person, so.
Yeah.
I don't see a harm in having them, come present and hearing more from them unless today we are in agreement that it's just going to be a hard no, in which case it would be a waste of their time.
I don't want to waste their time, but I would like to know what they're up to and what's going on. I don't think information could hurt, but I wouldn't want to waste their time because I see that we're not going to be able to make that same kind of effort or financial outlay. But if they wanted to just come and keep us updated on their progress, I'm open to that.
What's the total they're looking for?
They need 10 million
10 million,
to even get to the point where Thistle Rock will
look at the
Like-
23.
give them the balance of and loan and work with them.
It's unfortunate there's not more money in the public space out there because this is probably one of the most efficient ways to fund affordable
Preserve
housing.
housing, yeah.
It's development neutral, it's very cost effective, there's definitely essential workers and people who are core to our community, but the amount of money that's out there is just, it can't match kind of the buying power the organizations that are going out and trying to buy these places. I mean, that's kind of the long and the short of it.
And the number of parks that
Yeah.
that are out there that are targets for private buyers that need to be preserved. You know, I'll echo what David said. If I wish that we had $200-300 million to go around and buy, you know, help the owners buy all the parks so that they could all be resident owned. But without state and federal involvement, which it's our understanding is not going to happen, there's very little that our limited resources in our valley can accomplish, sadly. And still accomplish the goals that we as individual municipalities have set forth for ourselves.
Yeah. So, do you need more direction? Are you about, are we a hard no or not? I'd be open to giving them the platform to get out there and make a plea, but I think we need to set the expectation that, like, we do not have the money.
Okay.
It's not 5%. $500,000. Like, we don't have $500,000.
No, we definitely don't. I mean, I think we need to be clear on that. I mean, I wish it wasn't that way, but I mean, I think that's where we're at.
Well, and you said, Jeff, or Gloria, you said that you got confirmation that it's 5% of the residents, which it said 300 residents, that must include children. So let's assume 200 adults, of which 5% would be 10 people are working in Basalt, which sadly is a pretty low number.
Yeah, I am still just diving into our affordable housing funding, and so I'm not comfortable with this request at this point, and I expressed that to our managers group when we were talking about it. So, but I definitely wanted to bring it up to you all for direction.
Just a thought to add to that is maybe if West Mountain decides to jump into this and really be a fundraiser, then at that point they decide to come to council. But if West Mountain isn't going to jump into it, it might be hard to.
Yeah, we'll know more tomorrow once everybody gets there. And just for clarity, I am there on behalf of RAFTA, Jill, right
I'm
now.
there on the
So
top of Basalt.
we defer, I think Gloria's true, but I'm there on behalf of RAFTA. That's the only reason I am involved. So,
And that's the one across from the Restore. Yeah. So my concern is that that's not the same as the one we participated in. As far as infrastructure, you know, the nature of the community, it's close to transit, but it's not in a sense. So I think there's a lot of things that are below the radar that people are going to have to finance and fund there. It's a pretty high density area too. Look at all the cars that are parked along there most days. It's an opportunity, but it's a different opportunity than one that was in the Mid-Valley Water and Sanitation District and serviced by utilities and a RAFTA bus stop and all the rest of that. It's not an urban area. It's a fringe kind of, so it's kind of tough. And financially, it's a big ask.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm at,
Is there any state legislation? I know state legislation is what gave municipalities, or not municipalities, but the residents the right to buy it. But if there were to be more legislation that would help curb these prices or give people more time to fundraise, I'd say, like, I'd be all for sending a letter, but I just don't see where we have the money.
Yeah.
So I don't want to speak too much on it, but I do know that after the last mobile home park purchase that West Mountain helped with, the coalition did draft a kind of detailed white paper memo and sent it to the state and said, here's what we learned through this, and here are suggestions on some legislative changes that would help protect these parks from this kind of, you know, I mean, it's not quite predatory behavior, but I mean, they're being targeted. And it's my understanding, and you were in that meeting, that a lot of what they suggested was kind of, I don't know if it was dismissed, but they didn't get too far. They weren't really listened to. So, I mean, I don't know if the wheel needs to be squeakier but the coalition certainly is trying to, you know, tackle that to the extent that they have the resources.
Yeah, that's good to hear that they wrote it, not good to hear that it was dismissed.
Yeah, because there has been, I think, what's her name in Velasco?
Velasco?
Yeah, Elizabeth Velasco, I think, did recently bring something to the floor, but it like didn't include a lot of what Betsy Crum and April had, you know, suggested from their learnings. And so it was a little disappointing, is my understanding.
Yeah, okay.
And it seems like they're reading the CML stuff and just kind of the tea leaves of what's going on at the state level, that more of the focus is around building affordable housing, increasing supply that way. So I think a lot of the, just seems like what the emphasis is at the state level versus existing housing.
So it's sounding like we support them, but not financially, and if there's a way we can support them that's not financially, we'd be up for that.
Yes.
Okay.
There was a great documentary shown at Takal during that fundraising effort for the guys down here that detailed out a 3 or 4 year process that a community went through down on the I-25 corridor and didn't get to where they wanted to. But it was interesting how much bureaucracy they ran into over the course of 3 or 4 years, and rents go up and the whole 9 yards. It was brutal. So at that level, we could probably do something, but talking to whoever at the state. And, you know, the other thing is we don't have yet a congruent policy for affordable housing in the Roaring Fork Valley. You know, when I look at what's going on with community housing versus affordable housing, like Archdiocese versus what a resort town looks at, it's a completely different ballgame. So it's very difficult, and everybody needs funding for all those rungs on the ladder that are now from 1 through 5. It's like 1 through 15 until you get to 5. It's no longer 1 through 10 where you have that rung. You have missing rungs everywhere from that first level all the way up to third. There's like little mini steps along the way, and it's really difficult. Hopefully that's something that West Mountain can work on this. Try to figure out how we're going to do this on a regional level. And this same thing, looking at transportation nodes on the Highway 80 corridor, Aspen Village, Phillips Mobile Home Park, all those are able to be financed by Upper Valley governments. So that's a big deal, in my opinion, versus you go 25 miles away, 30 miles away, and there's not that much cash floating around. That's what we need to come at that pretty hard, I think. And we have our own projects to fund. So our contribution to right across the street here was, what, 17 deed restricted and 20 RO? I don't know what percentage of the workforce will be in Basalt, but we'll find out. I have another question, though, it's maybe not related. But raw water, we were asking about Basalt Springs.
Yeah, so we'll have a presentation, did we schedule at the end of April? End of April
Okay.
with Mid-Valley Metro as well here for you all. So
Okay.
we are working through that right now.
Is it a tank overflowing up there, or is it keeping up on the hill? I mean, quickly.
Yeah, I would just say, Rick, we're monitoring we have a meter from the Basalt Springs and Lexinger Springs that comes through into the plant.
Right.
And we have not seen, at this point, a significant reduction or major change in the amount of water that's coming to the water treatment plant.
Good, yeah, thanks.
Anything else?
That is all I had on my manager's report, unless you all had questions on the staff reports, which you just received.
At this point, my end. So let's go ahead and move on. Thanks for that good information. Next up, we have item 6A, which is our first presentation on Basalt Connect. And I need to grab my iPad
Oh, yeah.
I left my bag there.
Okay.
You guys can just tee up.
All right, I'll tee this up. So I'm putting this all before you because I wanted to ensure that you were aware that that the OSTG, the Ozone Season Transit Grant, that was covering the 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. timeframe, June through August in 2025, is not available for 2026. So what that means is about $37,648 if we wanted to cover that time frame ourselves. And so I put some numbers in here as far as where this money comes from. It comes from our green team unrestricted right now. 40% of that 611,000 budgeted for Basalt Connect comes from RAFTA. So that's actually been reduced down from 50% in previous years. So we're subsidizing that with the Lake Modern RETA in the amount of $93,000 right now. And that's just for our base services. And that doesn't include the 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. timeframe, June through August. And so why I'm putting this in front of you is if you were aware of this, first of all, in the budgeting process, I wanted to make sure, because it would be a significant service cut. We could, right now we have scheduling of the drivers and all of our advertising going out. So that's kind of why the deadline is now, to see if you wanted to take more money from the Lake Modern RETA to possibly fund the 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. time frame for those 3 months again this year. So wanted to have that discussion with you all.
All right. Thoughts?
This doesn't involve any expansion of the services beyond town limits, right?
Not at this point. I'm looking into that right now, though, what that looks like.
James, I don't know if can we put things like this up on the screen too?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Just a quick second.
I think it's a great service and it's worth preserving, and we should figure it out.
Thanks. Other thoughts?
So that 37K is just for summer.
That would be for the additional service of the 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. June through August for those 3 months.
Which is what that grant covered before.
Kids are out of school. They don't.
I think people love this service. I would just like a deeper, sorry, I'm sure they'll yell at me. I would like a deeper dive. I did go through the numbers. They're pretty good, but like, I just worry we're subsidizing like super riders. They're super users, as I would like to say. And so I would just like to have a deeper dive into that, just to make sure that we're not like unique visitors to the service. So how many, like, because we see riders, we see the service is well used, well liked. I just wonder in the whole service too, because I've heard from some people of just what is our end goal? It's a great service, but I think we could do a smaller, deeper dive into it.
I had the same questions because I saw 461 unique rider accounts. But of those rider accounts, I know that, like, I'm one of them, but I've never actually used it. I signed up thinking I might, and I haven't. And so kind of to Ryan's point is it primarily 100 of those that are using 80% of the, taking 80% of the rides? And then it does beg the question, while it is a great service and it is well loved, is it well loved by 100 people? And for that, the other 4,400 residents of Basalt are paying the price? I think those questions are worth asking. And then I would go back to the original intent of the Basalt Connect, which this is more of like a clarifying question, because I wasn't here when the service started. Was that to be the kind of last mile transport, right? To link between, you know, say like Elk Run, which is not particularly close to a bus stop, so that then I am going from my house to the bus stop and then taking the bus into Aspen. How many of those rides is doing that versus taking me to Willits to dinner because I can't get an Uber? And
I think that was also in the mix of what it was for. It was a circulator. It was intended as a circulator and
last mile.
first and last mile.
First and last mile. Okay.
Yeah,
think
so it wasn't either or.
Yeah, but I
I
wanted,
think that's what the RAFTA grant was based upon.
yeah.
So 40% of the rides were that last mile. That's really how we came up with, I believe that's how that.
40% of funding.
20% now.
I think it was
Now it says it's 26%.
26. And I think it's RAFTA's intention to continue to ratchet that down or make it at least commensurate with the amount that's going to the spots,
Yeah.
which don't leave it at that. I would just say if we're going to start making some of those comparisons, we should probably look at it like against other benchmarks of transit, because I think what I can't recall the numbers off the top of my head, but it is like per ride can be quite expensive, can be a concentrated group of riders. I mean, some of it's, I think, the nature of mass transit. So I just would make sure that we're comparing it to, a good frame of reference as far as how many unique riders we should have, et cetera. I think today we're just talking about the 10 to 3 is what we really got to make give direction on.
And this is just 10 to 3 this summer.
Just over the summer.
And so, yeah, this wouldn't be a sustainable path forward to keep using the RETA fund to subsidize this, but it is an option for us. I did put in your packet kind of what RETAs can be used for what, and so it wouldn't take from the general fund, but Lake Modern's the only one.
It's the end of March to me. It's the end of March. Like summer's around the corner. I think we should figure it out. You do use the money you proposed, but knowing that we're not gonna be able to do it in subsequent years unless we figure something else out.
Yeah.
We're too close in.
I would agree with that, and I just think that we need to make sure that we prioritize a larger discussion about a permanent funding method if it's RAFTA's intention to ratchet it down. We've lost this grant. Are there other grants out there? Do we start charging for service? I mean, RAFTA charges for service for their buses.
So does Glenwood charges for this?
Right, and then honestly, we've had a lot of requests to expand the service area to Holland Hills and to neighborhoods that are right outside of our, direct town boundaries. If we charge for service, it might allow us to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of headed down a pilot program for the summer months of how you get a 8th grader from Elgibel to the pool and how you get a kid from the pool to Crown Mountain, during those hours, and seeing how much is it going to cost to extend it another mile, in each direction to do that. And there's data that shows these kids that are in that median, middle school age group don't have access to recreation because they don't have good transit. And maybe even throwing a bike rack on a couple of those wouldn't hurt, for somebody that's coming into town or coming from town to Crown, so they can take their bike down there, things like that.
Well, those cycles are meant to kind of
Yeah, but they're not
link
gonna
those as
ride their
well.
bike. In the bike park, though. The bike park is going off down there this summer.
Oh, meaning they need to get there with their bikes.
They could ride their bike there. I just feel like we're in this subsidization. I agree with it, but who are the users? How many total users? I think 37,000 is fine for this time, but I think it needs to be a deeper dive into who exactly is using this program, how much are we using this program, and I feel like some of that's lacking in this. I think they give good ridership data, but there are super users in there that are skewing the data.
Even in this data, I'm inclined to go ahead and say yes to the 37,000 because July and August are the highest months for ridership, at least last year. But I'd like to know what, of those riders, of those rides, what was from 10 to 3. It's kind of all together. But I do think we should look at how we can have people pay for it. Because people seem to love, that use it, love it, and are willing to pay for it.
So it sounds like I should come back to you all with a resolution to approve this one-time funding this year, and then schedule out a work session with Basalt Connect to kind of talk through our options there, while Doug and I have been doing some research on the background on charging for the service.
And so to avoid, that's correct.
Okay.
To avoid duplicative efforts too, RAFTA, a subcommittee of the board, last year did do a first and last mile, but a bunch of work for several months. So I would check
Paul
with,
Hamilton? I've been talking with him, that was like the.
I don't remember Paul being in it. He might have been. I would check with Kurt.
Find out. We'll find
Yeah, but there's an output of that probably answers a lot of this stuff. It could help kind of measure some of the things that were being pointed out, like whether that's right or whether or not right is, but whether it kind of conforms to like norms as far as this kind of transit or not, so.
Does Salt Rec have any data on who comes from where to do swimming lessons or soccer programs or?
Oh, that's Matt.
basketball?
He has that.
Yeah.
You said Glenwood charges for this?
$1 a ride.
Same in
No.
Aspen.
You could like waive it for kids or
Will
not
they
even,
charge,
you know?
like how, we should look at how people pay and.
It's probably Apple Pay or something typically, yeah.
They take cash too.
Take cash even, yeah, I mean,
Transaction costs are very high as a percentage of revenue.
take $1.
Why were last July and August so much higher than prior years?
And like I said in there, it could have been
We're gonna
because of our concert series,
Mm.
but we don't have that data yet on like what the timing is. I did ask for the data for the timing, but they weren't able to supply that, so.
Okay.
I'm
We
hoping
skipped a year,
that
too.
giving more lead time and having them here, we can kind of have that discussion as a board.
Totally. Because I think the benefit of like bringing people to the concert, so we're not messing with parking, so if people can have a beer, get home, whatever, bring their kids out, is great. But yeah, getting a better sense of what is the ridership, what's the purpose, could those people pay $1?
Because we have to do something differently, because right now we're not on a sustainable path.
Well, and
So, I mean, even without this midday thing, because of the.
I would also have everyone look at the numbers. Even if you charge $1, we're barely 6% of what we're paying on this. So like, we can't create this like, we really have to look at the users of this. I love the service. I've used it. I can move a car here and there. It helps me, but like, I think we're paying a lot of money for super users, and we should really dig down into these numbers, because they're more than, I would bet money they're more than we could imagine. And that's not bad either. I want to support the citizens that are using this, but at what cost? $500,000 is a lot of money.
All right. Anything else on this one before we move on to the financials? All right, Doug, you're up. Item 6B is 2025 fourth quarter financials.
Real quick, Doug, I might cry, because this is one of
Gonna what?
this is my last financial update.
I
and
know, well,
I'm
you can
just-
listen in, you know, you can like dial in.
Oh, no, I'm in it.
You can say
I'm in it.
long-
I just want to tell you that I'm
Record them for you.
I'm very,
These milestones are
I'm grateful for you and the team.
Well,
That's
thank
all I wanted to state.
Well,
Listen,
thank you.
Next agenda
I
item.
only
Slack's
might got
gonna be
one
like,
more
"It's my
meeting,
last
like, what am I-
post-appointment."
There's a support group.
Listen, I'll come sit in on the other ones, but I won't feel the same.
You're saying in the packet?
I just wanted you guys to know.
Well, I'm just waiting for the first time caller, long time listener. Waiting for that call. Just like to,
There's a support group for you out there, Ron.
Listen, it's Rick I'm gonna call. It's just gonna be Dieter and I just.
Sorry, I love you, buddy.
You're not going to call in.
Listen, Dieter, you didn't have the old updates, so, like,
All right, he's not calling in. Okay, so, all right, let's start off like we have in the past. With the, this is a presentation that has been done. We have another one we're going to show you, and I'll let Gloria take the lead on explaining how we did version 2. But this is what we've been doing. We start off with a graphical illustration of our sources of income in the general fund, along with our department expenses. And it's graphically displayed here. You'll see here in the blue, this is our sales tax, this is our principal. I'll be doing with the red here. And then James, for people calling in, like Ryan, will be able to follow because he'll toggle over the various numbers that we go through here. But sales tax still principally is our principal source of revenue, followed by property taxes, 15% of our revenue. Again, this is just general fund revenue. This isn't total revenue of sales tax or property tax for that matter. And then we have licenses and permits, this is principally building permits in this green shaded area. And then in the next higher category here, 7.6 is our intergovernmental revenue, which is really our grants and some of our other receipts, highway use tax, road and bridge taxes and whatnot. And then last is the other is the 6.9, that's principally our interest income. So again, that's graphically illustrating our income. You'll look at the department expenditures. Typically, the blue, which is public works, the red police, typically that's over half of the expenses of the general fund. That was distorted somewhat or diluted somewhat in that the administrative area was higher this last year because we had funded the mobile home park $600,000 for the purchase of those 2 mobile home parks. So typically, that's not as high, bless you, as a percentage of expenses. So let's go to the next page here, James. And this is super hard to read here, so you have to look at it on your deck. Can we make that a little bigger?
I will, yes.
All right, so you'll see here the sales tax really is flattening out. Property tax is the first line. Third line down is our sales tax. This isn't total sales tax. This is just sales tax to general fund. Remember that for every dollar of trade that is transacted here in the Basalt, there's 3 pennies of sales taxes generated. 2 cents hits the general fund, and another penny hits the restricted fund. So this is just general fund revenue. And you'll see here that that number is really flat. And I will tell you that I look back at the 2022 levels of sales tax. Overall, this is going to be a good report. And these will be what audited. These numbers will ultimately be audited. But in 2022, our total sales tax taxes being remitted by the state along with Pitkin County and Eagle County and whatever we received from our marijuana receipts was $10,500,000. In this current year, it was $10,300,000. So over a 3-year period, we have experienced no growth in our sales tax, and that is our principal source of revenue. So that's just cautionary that our number is flattening out, and we are going to have an airport closure here coming up in 2027, which could impact the sales tax. It could be positive, but it could also be negative. And I'm thinking of all of the various hotels up in Aspen are going to be, not all of them, but I've heard a lot of them are going to be closing for renovations and whatnot. That might be reason for people to, frequent Basalt. Or it could be that people just don't come. And I know Pitkin County is projecting a drop in sales tax. And I'll tell you anecdotally, this January, with weather being so warm, international travel being down, the numbers out of Pitkin in January were off.
Yeah.
Were off quite a bit.
That was like
Ours were, I would say, ours are hard to compare because we had some non-compliant taxpayers catch up. We had a few also miss, so it seemed like it was about flat. I mean, it wasn't like wheels were coming off the car, but it wasn't, I don't, it's not a, seems like a sticky number, but nothing growing. So I think my, just cautionary tale, because that is our principal source of income. So we're talking about expanding services, we're talking about payroll is, headcount is going to be going up, fringe will be going up. Those costs are a percentage of revenue. We're trying to keep it between 45 to 50%, but if our revenue is staying flat and our payroll is creeping up, we're going to be breaching those numbers. And it will be difficult to make the budget. So it'll be my, just, again, not borrowing trouble, but just looking ahead of what we're looking at.
Is the closure, it's April to November next year, right? Is that
April,
correct?
closing day, April 27th through the end of the year.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the start is
Right. So I just want to make that point on the sales tax, since it's our big driver of income. So looking at other license and permits, your big number here is building permits. That year over year is actually down relative to 24. Not way off, but is still down. You'll see our grant number is in our intergovernmental services. That number is a little higher this year versus last. We have in here our grants from DOLA for the work being done over at 2E. We also have that OSTG money in here that we had last year, along with Basalt Connect, the reimbursement being in 2025, 50% of the service. And then let's see, the big number here as far as a percentage increase year over year is miscellaneous income. We being the town, was the paymaster of all of the liquor sales at the concerts. So we had those as receipts. The previous year, we had just laid that all off on the philanthropics. They were the paymaster. So all of that money didn't cross our ledger. It did this year. So that explains the year over year increase. Working through the expenses here in the legislative area, this is where you will find events. This is where you'll find Green Team. Green Team is our top expense of the general fund. We also find in here that $600,000 that was paid for preserving the mobile home parks. In the administrative area, there's not a lot of room to move around here. These are essential services. This is outsourced legal, outsourced IT. These are all our platforms that run our accounting, STR compliance, our budgeting program that we use, along with our CIRSA insurance. CIRSA insurance is a killer because it's a big number, and a lot of that you really can't do without. And a lot of the increases have been unfortunately driven by law enforcement claims that are incurring on the Front Range. That's kind of spilling over to us vis-a-vis higher premiums. See here, and just moving down, can be some of the highlights here. Facilities here was like $900,000. That was principally the last payment that we had on this COP, the Certificate of Participation for the purchase of the umbrella property that we had. In the police, this is another area here. We combed out a lot of the savings that the police department was accruing. The police department experienced a lot of vacancy savings. And when you look, I look at domain. So revenue was flat. Our payroll, actually, as a town, we experienced quite a bit of vacancy savings. One was the police department, because we had some turnover. Secondly, Justin didn't start till April, and we didn't backfill the assistant public works director position. We also had Ryan leaving, and with him being gone and Gloria not starting until November, there was some savings there being picked up, net of what pittance I got for being the town manager, interim town manager. When I look at the whole expenses, we did beat budget, and that's really because we had vacancy savings and unspent capital. It's a good report in that we met revenue, and our expenses were less than what we expected. So we ended the year, just page down just a little bit, James. We ended the year in the black by about $700,000 compared to what we thought we'd be, which is a negative $111,000. So that's really yeah. Ryan?
Did we have any, I thought building fees were gonna be like way off? Didn't we have a bunch of carryover from? Did it slow down? I guess it's a loaded question. Obviously, across the street
Right.
came in, but then did it slow down beyond that?
Well, I think you're looking at the budget versus actuals.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we're like,
Well, we restated the budget with that budget amendment we did in November, so we trued up revenue to what we
so
thought.
that doesn't reflect in.
Right, didn't
or
show you,
that
it doesn't show the original budget, it shows the restated budget.
Okay.
So I think that was one, I know that was one of the adjustments we made, was the budget for building permits.
And we were originally thinking that there was gonna be another Lake Modern building starting, but it's,
Last year.
yeah,
Right.
it's.
So all those,
That'll carry over to this year, so that might,
Yeah.
okay.
so a lot of those things are timing differences, they're hard to predict. This is really kind of where the cash landed.
Oh, no, of course, I just was double checking.
Right. And then let's go over here to the, if we could, James, on the same slide, let's go over to that little box up there in the corner here. This is just showing our cash position and where it's actually located. So we have money in Colorado Trust. We have money in Ellers, which is our longer dated investments. And then we have money over at Alpine. So we started the year with just under 30 million in cash and cash equivalents. And we ended the year with just slightly under 30 million, a net increase of $148,000, which is what we ended up for the year. Which, all things considered, with all the things they had moving around, it's actually not a bad story. So let's go to the next slide. So that's the general fund. All right, so let's go to the next slide here. This is the restricted fund. This is quicker to go through because this is an easier story. There's, as you know, 32 different restricted funds. 3 of them are tax related, that's being the post revenue, that's the 1 penny I talked about of sales tax coming into the town. There's also lodging tax and tobacco tax. And then the green is the RETAs. There's 8 RETAs. Of the 32 funds, there's 8 RETAs. And that was what the revenue that was generated from those RETAs, just a little slightly under 30%. So the 30 and the 60, that's 93% of our revenue is generated there. And then we have some other miscellaneous funds that make up the difference. So let's go to the actual numbers, see where we ended up. Now, the 3 million here is a good number to remember here, along with the lodging, because I'm going to illustrate here a little bit how those numbers actually create some allocations of money moving from the restricted fund to the general fund. So all of these various components here are really principally our RETAs. We also had the park dedication fee, sort of like a tap fee. When you come into town, you got to pay a tap fee for get into the water service. It's a tap fee for the parks. You know, all of the investments that the town has made for parks throughout the years. And coming into town, you're building something, you're going to be paying a park fee. That 500,000 or so was generated from the Midland. There'll be a similar fee when the Jadwin comes online, that they'll pay a similar type fee for park service, or park, it's like ticket to entry, if you will. These are the other expenses here. What's remarkable here, I want to go over here, is the post. There's been a considerable amount of discussion about post, and really what that number represents. So I have detail about what that is. So let's go down one slide here, James. Or go to one more. Here we go. You can make that a little bigger. Good. So of that $2.4 million, this is right out of the general ledger. First line is the COP. That's a certificate of participation for Albany Park. We had borrowed money to renovate the pool like 5 years ago. So that's the load we have on debt service to pay off that loan. We have a remaining payment is occurring in 2026. So that's part of the post budget. You'll see here 2075, 600, and 700. These two numbers combined in your deck here, it adds up to like $1,400,000. Those are all the post projects that we have. I know there's been a lot of chat about, because just really what all is that number, because like, I don't know, it seems like there's like 20 different projects we have in there. So we'll go to the detail of that here in a second. But what I also want to illustrate here is that post allocation, that's the 20% of the post revenue is an expense to the post department. And that $600,000 is an expense to the restricted fund that actually serves as an offset to the general fund in maintaining our public gardens and our parks department. In addition, this down here, Parks Out, this is Department 77 is lodging. I don't know why it was called that, but I'm just went with legacy descriptions of departments, but this is lodging. See the money paid to the chamber, marketing for events. This 120,000 also offsets the cost of the parks. So if you add the 120 and the 606, go down to one more slide here, James. Go to the next slide. Oh, one more. It's the order here. This is the general ledger for the Parks Department called Public Gardens. That's the $700,000. So when you're going to see here in a minute, Good Earth coming in with a resolution for maintaining our public gardens, it's like $400,000. That's bigger. That's in this number here. Without this allocation from the restricted fund, without it, our Parks Department would run more like $850,000. So we're offsetting the general fund's expense by these allocations. So we're just moving money from the right pocket to left pocket, restricted fund to the general fund. So I just wanted to be able to illustrate that. Now go. So any questions on that?
So the 600 that goes to Public Works now, is that funding the $400,000 Good Earth contract?
Yes, it's in that 727, Rick. Because we also have that 600, we also have the lodging as a quarter of the lodging tax. 125. Yep, exactly. That's exactly right. Okay? All right, so
real quick, if you would backtrack into some of those other funds, I guess I would just wonder where, I think it's been on Rick's radar, and I've been thinking about it too, is just in this, I mean, there's so much money here, but where are the funds that would be able to be either voted on, or where is our extra money?
I'm gonna get to that. It's in the deck. It's in the deck. I will get to that. I'll show you. I have it. So let's go back up one page here just for a minute. This is right here. Whoa. I'm sorry. Whoa.
You don't have to change it.
No. He got.
Computer is doing its own thing.
The million. What'd you say?
Control.
There we
Yeah,
go.
I just wanted to show this because this is important here, because when we're putting this budget together, these are all the projects, and this is like more detail than you guys normally see. 'Cause we just brush over. You have 2.4 million in posts, and we just kind of move on. These are all the projects that 2.4 are. The budget's 2.4, but actually what was spent was $1 million for funded. We had the pool, we had some signs, we had fire mitigation, we had all of these various projects. Everything's tagged to a project code, and all of those numbers are reviewed quarterly, and we'll be doing it under the direction of Catherine here going forward. We'll meet quarterly, and we'll say what our budget was, what our actuals were, what the balance is, and kind of what the priority is, and who's the owner. Now, just page down, just another couple slices here. This came up in the conversation with green lighting the Basalt Connect, $35,000, okay? There's things that occur throughout the year that don't get budgeted. And if you remember right, there was things in the parking lot that we didn't budget. Like Cliff's Hillside was something you're gonna see tonight. That wasn't budgeted, okay? But that's gonna be presented tonight as something to be greenlit. So we're gonna take money out of the parking lot. How are we gonna pay for it? Which we'll get to. But then the other thing I want to say for clarity here, and this is more for Jeff's benefit, is are we doing a budget amendment every time we go over something that wasn't a line item in the budget? Or are we going to do a budget amendment for when we ring the bell? And I think if we have a budget of in this case of $2.1 million, this is 2025 numbers. If we're not spending that 2.1 million, do you need to do a budget amendment even though one of the line items was over? I would pose it that you don't. Just like we didn't necessarily need to do a budget amendment for the mobile home parks because in hindsight, we had enough money to cover it. But we did anyway. Okay, so,
If there's money that's budgeted and appropriated
right.
for that purpose, the availability for that expenditure, yeah, then it
Right.
is fine. I think the question that came up on the last budget cycle was there were maybe fund balances that were carried over but not appropriated.
Right.
So I think that was the issue.
Right, okay. Well, we're not gonna do a budget amendment every time we have something that's on budget. If we're eclipsing the budget a number, we will do a budget amendment.
But if you're doing a public works project, you cannot enter a contract that would exceed your appropriated money.
Right, okay. I believe that's what we'll be following, okay.
Did you say, if I heard correctly too, you have to add that project there if it wasn't there already?
You would have to do a supplemental appropriation to appropriate the money so it could be spent on that public works project before you enter the contract to
Right.
spend it.
Okay, I think that's what we'll be doing. Okay? All right, so let's finish this off here. Let's go down, I think it's a little bit more here. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's finish the other funds and then I'll go to the restricted. You want to do the balances of the restricted fund now that we're on it? Or what do you think?
Don't threaten me with a good time, Doug. You just do you.
Let's show them the balances. I think it's,
Let's go to the end here, James,
Go to the end.
yeah.
because this is brought up. All right, here we go. All right, so these are unaudited numbers of where I believe the fund balances will drop out at 12/31 when we get the audit done. So the general fund will have 13.3 million in it. The restricted fund will have 10.6. There'll still be 5 million or so of cash in the capital construction fund, which was the bond proceeds. The water fund, that's not representative of cash because it's an enterprise fund. It includes property and equipment. There's about $1.8 million in the water fund. So just a little caveat there is don't conflate cash with fund balances with respect to the enterprise fund. Conservation Trust Fund is at 207, and then these other ones are just minor amounts. So basically, the fund balances are going to be coming in around 35.7. Cash is around 30. The difference is really the property and equipment in the water fund. So you go down to the next page. Here you go. Whoa. So of that 13 million in the general fund, we have some we have a category that's unspendable of 66,000. We have a table reserve we're required to maintain. We also have a policy for keeping our reserves at basically 40% of our operating expenditures over the last 3 years. So that's embargo money. I'll have to update that number, and I'll likely update this number. But then we have like 7.5 million of unappropriated money. This is, I'm covetous of this number because we've been using this number as a marker as a way of funding the police public works station. Okay, so yeah, it may look like we got a lot of money, but that police public works station isn't going. It's going to be more than $7.4 million. And then of the restricted fund, we have 950 of unspent tobacco money. We've got a small amount of lodging tax money that has been spent. This is our post-budget, $3 million. So as we pull money out of the parking lot, we'll be saying, look at the $3 million. So as long as we don't eclipse that $3 million in reserves, we're okay. And then we have redos. If you add up all the redos, we have $4.5 million of unspent money. This is the parks money. And then these other miscellaneous funds will round it out to the total balance of the restricted funds of I think it's about $10.6 million. So, does that help understand where the cash is? Ryan, you had that question, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Doug, I had a question. So on all the restricted funds, this column is showing, this is just the fund balance.
Fund balance.
It's not showing what's been, what amount of that was budgeted and appropriated for 2026 expenditures?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
That's renewable at some level. But those budget allocations for 2026 are renewed, you know, they're one-time, Cliffs is one-time expense, Arbor's one-time, so we're looking at Public Works Police on the side of a long-term, you know, capital expense that's recovered over how many years, 25, I don't know. But that to me is the significance of this. You know, because we can do projects every year to the tune of $3 or $4 million, and that refreshes itself. In the case of 2022 versus now, when it's flat, we still have a pretty good funding stream for. And Rita, you know, I'm hearing real estate numbers are coming, our sales prices are coming down. That's another reality, but I think that the impressive thing isn't the list of projects that we have. The impressive thing is the sustainability of the 3% now, and a potential 0.5% coming up in November. That's
Right.
pretty sustainable. And
I don't disagree with that, but once the money is restricted, it's
Yeah.
used for those purposes.
Right.
I think where my concern would be, of the 2 pennies that's not restricted, it's in the general fund, that's funding the 3 domains, being payroll, operating, and, you know,
the sales,
and
the
capital.
sales tax, I'm just talking about the 1%
Right,
sales tax
right,
revenue.
right. It is. I mean, and you could say that the sales tax is sticky for the most part. So anyway. All right,
I'm knocking on wood.
I'm sorry?
Sales tax is sticky.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, you want to go to the one you started with? Let's just do that. And you want to give a little preview here?
So I'm working with Doug on jazzing up his financial, jazzing it up a little bit. So we experimented with a presentation that was generated for us. And after reviewing its accuracy, we wanted to try it out. But we're also looking at a module in ClearGov that does this as well. So hopefully you'll find this jazzy. Was that good?
And we did it twice, and we came up with totally different presentations.
Yeah.
Using the same numbers.
Well,
So I don't know, like from a.
It's supposed to be that way. It's supposed, LLMs are random, like
Okay.
by design. So.
Well, it was random. So let's just go through this real quick. So this is just the highlights. You'll see the operating revenue, this general fund revenue is 12.9. This missed by a little bit. This number is not exactly right. But there was a surplus in the general fund. This 4 million is what the capital construction fund. We did not go over that particular fund. But that's essentially the rounding out the finishing off Midland, and then also the affordable housing projects we have going on in
Funding
Scottsville.
Basalt's infrastructure future,
Exactly,
to be jazzy.
exactly. Well, you know me long enough to know I'm not jazzy. So, and then this is just all the various funds we have: general, restricted, water, bond, capital, and then the surpluses, and then the deficit. This capital construction fund should be a deficit. We should ultimately spend all that money. So it should ultimately be zero. The next one, and then this is, we did the pie chart for the general fund. This is just block chart. This is sales tax, property, and then all our other revenues that were displayed previously. And then of these pillars of work, I don't know why it did this as a dollar amount and the other ones didn't, and why this was executed at 94 with the other ones, but I think there's a good pillar here, is that these are your principal drivers of services. We'd already talked about the administration being a little bit higher than probably, it is historically because of the 600,000 going to the mobile home park. And then legislative is the green team, the events, the COP are in the Tabor refunds. And it's funny, that's again, pillars of expenses. Just moving along here to the next. So this is just a pretty good little summary of the restricted funds. You've got your taxes, to Rick's point, they're pretty sticky. 30% of RETAs, that's all transaction-based. Affordable housing is our rent for our owned units. And then we have some building permits and some other impact fees in this number. Next up, this is just our revenue versus our expense surplus of 2.3. The taxes and the RETAs are, now this is a pie chart versus the other one. It's the same pie chart we had with the other presentation we just did. And then finishing up the next slide, this is our water fund. Water fund's actually in pretty good shape. Revenue, we have pretty good little profit this year. We've got two big capital projects happening. One is the meter replacement that Justin's working on, and we also have a water line project in some of the out years to address. I don't think capital on both of those projects are going to be more than the cash we have to fund those. So we'll likely be borrowing money. We're going to do both. We're going to have to borrow money. And I submit that we would be borrowing money for the meters versus the water line. That'd be an easier thing to borrow money for. And also just makes sense. The water meters in people's homes. We got 1,000 accounts. So anyway, that's coming. All right, next slide up. This is just our pyramid of cash. 30 million. This is our liquid stuff. We got some stuff that's all of this is liquid. It really comes down to it. But there's our shorter term maturities, and then these are longer dated. This is our laddered approach, 4-year ladder, reaching for yield for a big chunk of our revenue, our interest revenue. And then next up is just bottom line. Revenues exceeded expectations. We cleared all our goals. We've had disciplined operating spending. We had good savings on payroll, vacancy savings, and unspent capital dollars. And we also did a great job on spending our capital money on building out Stotts Mills and some of the other things that we've been working on. And is that the last slide?
It's the last slide.
That's the last slide. So anyway, there you go. That's all I got. Huh?
So that was a jazzy deck.
That was jazzy. Like it?
Could use some like slide transitions, like emojis.
Or explosion.
Right?
I like when it bounces.
What's that?
The slide build.
Maybe
Trying
a
to get to the
soundtrack.
next one and
Thank
it's
you.
like,
I get music next time. I maybe Eddie Money, Rabbit. Eddie Rabbit Money.
Yeah.
And so hopefully this helped tee you up for these next agenda items to talk through those.
Right, because some of these are applicable here. So,
I would like to thank Doug and team for the amazing detail that we are in now. From the last 8 years to now, and Christy before Doug. I mean, we are in the most amazing spot as a town with our financials that some people might never know if they don't go back and look at where we were 8 years ago to now. It's amazing. It's, you know, not to beat a drum, but it's so cool to see where the town is and what our staff is doing. Team of Doug. So, yeah, well, thank you all.
Within 5 points of the budget, you know. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Thank you for all the work Jenny and everybody does for that. All right, we'll move on to council actions. Item 7A is an interview and appointment of prospective member to Parks, Open Space, and Trails. Interview and appointment of prospective member Charlie Eckert to post. And you're standing in for Carlton. Catherine?
Yeah, and I was hoping Charlie would be here, but he's not. So anyway, I'll introduce him anyway, and you guys can make a decision. But tonight I was going to bring forward to you an application from Charlie Eckert to join the town's post committee. Charlie is a Basalt resident who also serves as the chair of Basalt's Green Team, so he's been an active member of our citizen boards for a while now. He's been involved in the creation and maintenance of many of our local trails and parks for decades. He serves on the board of Roaring Fork Outdoor Volunteers as well as the Roaring Fork Mountain Bike Association. And tonight I'm bringing for your consideration a 3-year post appointment for him. Right now we have 2 post positions that are open, so he would be filling one of those. And I'm sorry, I can't answer any questions you might have for him this evening, but happy to answer any others you might have.
Mayor, I move the town council appoint Charlie Eckert to the post committee for a 3-year term to end March 24th, 2029.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Wonderful. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Catherine.
Yep.
Okay, next up, we have item 7B, a public hearing and introduction meeting, 555 Basalt Avenue Development Application for Special Review, PUD amendments, and associated development review actions for 54 commercial storage units and 47 residential units. And James, you're up for this one. And
Franca and Justin, would you guys like to come up to the front table, please? Thank you, Mayor. We have the applicants here this evening as well. We've got Justin Fries representing the development team, and Marika Blodgett, who is the owner of the Meyer Steel property. As you noted, this is an introduction meeting and a public hearing on a development application submitted by MREH LLC for a special review, PUD amendments, site plan review, and associated development actions to construct 54 commercial storage spaces and 47 multifamily residential units at 555 Basalt Avenue, which is the Myers and Company Steel property in Southside. The process for review includes land use requests that require review by the Basalt Affordable Community Housing Commission, BAC, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and Town Council, with public hearings at both the P&Z and Town Council levels. It also requires subsequent subdivision review by Town Council to condominiumize portions of the project that are proposed. Staff has also identified that the requested development would require approval of master plan amendments to amend the future land use map for the project, as well as to amend the typology designations for the property. And as such, a master plan amendment is being evaluated concurrently with the other land use actions that are requested. And a review of the master plan amendment will be by P&Z, and they've made a recommendation to the town council, so the council will have a resolution for consideration at a future meeting. So this evening, as I identified, staff recommends treating this meeting as an introduction to the proposal, an introduction to the discussion items that are related to the proposal, and also a public hearing, so you can understand kind of what the public comments are associated with the application. And then ultimately, staff would suggest providing some initial discussion and then continuing the public hearing to a future meeting. So that said, to kind of start an introduction to the project, the site subject to the application is the Myers and Company Steel Project property at 555 Basalt Avenue. It's a 4-acre property in Southside. It's in the Basalt Business Center South PUD, and this is the property boundaries here that you have the green around. The site is adjacent to the Basalt Park and Ride, On the north side, this is the Basalt Park and Ride. This is Cody Lane on the north side of the project, and then it's bound by Few Lane on the south side and the South Side 4 development, which is located right here. It's within the urban growth boundary, and it's zoned industrial PUD, and it's partially in the south side floodplain. You can see the site here. This map shows the floodplain as it goes through the site. The proposal is to remove all the existing buildings and construct 54 commercial storage areas on the south half of the project, which is this area here. And then on the north portion of the project, the applicant has proposed 47 residential units in 3 buildings of multifamily development. The access is proposed for the residential from Cody Lane via an expanded driveway from Cody Lane. And then access to the commercial storage is proposed on the south side from Few Lane, which takes its access from Basalt Avenue. As I identified, the applicant has proposed for 47 residential units, and 11 of which are proposed to be deed restricted for sale units. And we will let the applicant provide more detail as part of their comments, but that's just a brief introduction to what the proposal is. Staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission identified a series of discussion items at the P&Z review level, and staff has included those in the front page of your staff memo, and there's more detail on these discussion items in the P&Z memos that are attached to your packet materials, but staff would like to briefly go over those discussion items to give council a brief introduction to what the consideration topics are. The first is consistency of land use with the master plan. The site is in close proximity to the Basalt Park and Ride as it's adjacent to it, and it has an opportunity to provide housing in close proximity to transit, which could satisfy a series of goals and objectives from the master plan as was outlined in the P&Z memos. However, as I noted, it was identified that the property would require an amendment to the current future land use designations for the property in the master plan. The property is located in this area right here. It's currently identified as existing land use on the future land use map because it wasn't envisioned to be redeveloped for the life of the master plan when it was adopted. Additionally, the typology in which the property is located in the master plan is work mixed use, and the work mixed use typology envisions that commercial and residential are integrated on a site for development, and the applicant has proposed to separate those with the commercial being on the southern portion and the residential being fully on the northern portion of the site. So there would be a need to adjust the typology as well to make this multifamily residential on the north side. So as I noted, staff will bring back a resolution for consideration at a future meeting on the master plan amendments. The Planning and Zoning Commission did review the master plan amendments that were associated with the project. They were supportive of the master plan amendments, but they would like to see a greater percentage of affordable housing in the project per their recommendations. Other discussion items included compatibility of the use. The proposed uses of commercial storage and residential are allowed uses in the industrial zone district, with the residential being a special review use. In looking at the storage use, staff identified and P&Z agreed generally that the storage spaces would need to remain really as storage spaces and couldn't kind of morph into principal business locations because the traffic study identifies those spaces as storage, and they have a lower traffic generation rate than if they were operating actual businesses out of there. So that was a significant discussion item at the P&Z level. Other topics for consideration included the level of affordable housing, as well as the mix of units. Bach reviewed the original proposal and recommended incorporating some larger affordable housing units in the project. And the applicant responded by combining a studio and a one-bedroom affordable housing unit to make a two-bedroom affordable housing unit. This reduced the number of units to 47 total in the project, and then also the number of affordable housing units to 11. So the revised mix of affordable housing includes one studio, 9 one-bedrooms, and 1 two-bedroom unit. They also, as part of the Bach review of the project, adjusted the proposal so that the units are proposed as a for-sale product. And overall, this yields 23% of the units being affordable housing and deed restricted, and 25% of the overall residential square footage being deed restricted. Of note, the current town affordable housing requirements are that 20% of the residential units be deed restricted and 25% of the residential square footage be deed restricted. So in reviewing the proposal, Bach reviewed the revised program and were supportive of the change and were supportive of the level of affordable housing. They cited that the for sale product was important to have since the town's inventory of for sale affordable housing is low, and that's a gap in the town's inventory. But as I noted, the P&Z expressed a desire to see a greater level of affordable housing in the project as part of their recommendations. Other topics for introduction include the traffic. The applicants provided a traffic study that is included in your packet materials. Staff had a third-party traffic engineer review the traffic report. We had Jim Charlier of Charlier and Associates review the traffic study. We have used Charlier in the past on multiple development projects to review traffic studies. Jim Charlier expressed some concerns about the original traffic study only providing for one traffic count that was used to identify the amount of traffic that is generated by the existing Myers development. And the applicant, as part of the P&Z's review, responded to Charlier's concerns about the one traffic count by providing an additional traffic count that was done during the P&Z's review. And so that traffic count showed a higher existing traffic generation by the existing Myers Steel operations on the site than the original. So the overall conclusion of the traffic report is that the proposed traffic would not exceed the existing traffic that is being generated by the Myers Steel operations that currently exist. The applicant's traffic engineer is on the Zoom call this evening, and they can provide additional comments on that in detail as part of the applicant's presentation. Additionally, staff can have Jim Charlier attend a future meeting to answer questions that the council has on his third-party review. And ultimately, P&Z recommended that the applicant be required to contribute to their fair share of the roundabout expenses at the Cody Lane Basalt Avenue roundabout project that has been required for contribution from other development projects in Southside. As a reminder, the Southside East Cody Lane roundabout was identified as an improvement in the Southside traffic study that would increase capacity by allowing for laneage changes and being able to remove the split phase from the traffic signal at Basalt Avenue and Highway 82. So that's expected to be a requirement of the ordinance that the council would get at a future meeting. Additional topics include Few Lane. This was a significant discussion topic at the P&Z. Emergency services, the police department, and the town TRC have been interested in having the applicant look at widening the Few Lane. Few Lane is on the south side of the project and narrows down to a pretty narrow two-way access that goes in and out of the south side subdivision. And there were many public comments at the P&Z level about different alternatives that should be looked at. On Few Lane, they included a widened two-way. They included having a one-way access shift and then potentially doing a path so that emergency services could use that path if they needed to. And then there was also another idea that was floated about having kind of a split two-way and converting the Somerset Trail that goes adjacent to the current daycare into one-way out, and then including the existing access as a one-way in. So given that we had a series of options and we had considerable discussion, staff and the P&Z determined that we thought it was appropriate to have a third-party traffic engineer evaluate it and provide recommendations on the topic. So we have hired Jim Charlier to take a look at that and make a recommendation at a future meeting in terms of what that Few Lane kind of cross-section should be ultimately as part of the project. Other topics that came up during the review included the aesthetics of the buildings and the elevations. The applicant revised the elevation drawings several times during the P&Z's review at the direction of the P&Z to make them more visually appealing and interesting. The applicants can speak further to their improvements, and they've got some additional drawings to show the council. Ultimately, the P&Z was accepting of the revised elevation scenario. Additional topics included the pedestrian access to the project. This project is adjacent to the BRT site and the Basalt Park and Ride. This is the Basalt Park and Ride. This is the access road that currently exists from Cody Lane to the Myers property. The applicant originally proposed to provide a sidewalk across the Park and Ride to get to Cody Lane. RAFTA was not accepting of that scenario and instead recommended doing a sidewalk adjacent to the current access road. So the applicants amended their plan to include a sidewalk adjacent to the access road that would connect up with the current crosswalk that goes across Cody Lane to the BRT and the other older Basalt Park and Ride. So that is included in the plan and the proposal. Other considerations include the south side floodplain. As I noted, this site is partially in the south side floodplain. The applicants worked with the town's hydrologist, who is Robert Crable of Matrix Design, to come up with a site plan that would work for the floodplain in that it includes tuck-under parking in the residential buildings to allow for flood flows in a flooding event to continue through the site and not increase the base flood elevation. Additionally, the other requirement related to the floodplain is that the first finished floors of the building be at least 2 feet above the base flood elevation. And because the parking is tuck under, the first finished floors of the residential are significantly above the floodplain. So ultimately, Robert Crable indicated that the proposed site plan would work from a floodplain standpoint. Other topics also included green building and wildfire. Staff anticipates that there would be conditions requiring that the applicants would need to meet the SBR requirements as well as the wildfire mitigation requirements that are in effect at the time of a building permit. This is important because we're likely going to see changes to the wildfire mitigation requirements shortly. So we want to capture those by requiring it be applicable to the requirements at the time of building permit instead of development review. There were a couple other discussion items that included short-term rental. The P&Z approved a condition that would require that there not be any short-term rental in the residential. The applicant has actually requested that there be minimal short-term rental allowed in the market rate units. They've proposed to limit the short-term rental to be permitted to 60 days per year in each unit, which lines up with the regulatory fee exemption for short-term rentals that can be exempt if they rent it out on a short-term basis for less than 60 days in a year. So that's up for consideration as part of the review. And other topics include the phasing in vested rights. The applicants have requested the standard 3 years of vested rights that's in the town code. However, the P&Z recommended a phasing requirement that the applicant be required to bring the deed-restricted affordable housing on proportionally to that of the market rate housing, and that COs be obtained on the deed-restricted housing before any COs be obtained on the storage units. The applicant was concerned about that, and they have proposed a different approach. They've proposed that the deed-restricted housing come along proportionally to the market rate housing, similar to the P&Z's requirements, but that the COs not be tied to the storage units, and that the storage spaces, if they don't receive a CO, if the deed-restricted units don't receive a CO before the storage spaces, that they would temporarily dedicate 2 of the storage spaces for use of the town until the rest of the deed-restricted housing was completed in the project. So we can go over that in more detail if there are questions about it. But Generally, those are the main discussion items that came out of the P&Z and Bach review of the project. As I noted, staff suggests treating this as an introduction meeting to the proposal and the public comments and the discussion items, and then ultimately continuing the hearing to a future date. And staff would solicit any initial comments as well that the council has on the project as part of the council comments. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen and cue up the applicant's presentation here. And once again, we have Justin and Marika representing the applicant group.
I'll actually start. Can you hear me? Do I need to speak into this? Hi, yeah, good evening. My name is Marika Blodgett. My husband and I bought Myers and Company as well as the property that it operates on 10 years ago, almost to the day. I'm the CFO of the business, so bear with me. This is not usually my role, and I appreciate the guidance from James and Michelle over the past 2.5 years. And before I turn it over to Justin, I'll just briefly provide some background and explain our approach to the project, why we believe it's a great fit for Basalt, and address some of the discussion items that James touched on. So Myers has operated on the current site for, I think, around 30 years, several decades. And our workforce in the last few years has shifted a lot. Today, of our 60 employees, we have 5 that live in the Roaring Fork Valley. That includes Glenwood. So we've decided a few years ago that we're going to relocate the operations somewhere along the I-70 corridor to access a larger workforce, which then created the opportunity for us to redevelop this site. And in terms of how we approach the redevelopment, given what we know about the residential crisis and workforce housing crisis firsthand, we thought that a residential use should be part of a redevelopment, and we're also right next to the Rafta bus stop. But at the same time, we wanted to reduce overall traffic compared to what we're currently generating. And this is the piece where the garage storage component comes in. It's also called man cave storage. It's a very different from all the storage you've seen. It doesn't exist in the valley yet. I'll let Justin probably talk about it a little bit more. But this is where this garage storage component comes in, because it allows us to carry the project economically, support the housing, and reduce overall traffic. And James has touched already on some of the points, but to achieve the current result, we've worked closely with town staff. We've made several adjustments in response to the town staff's feedback. We've added a 2-bedroom affordable unit. We've added the exterior storage to the affordable units. We've done another traffic count. We've secured the CDOT access permit for Cody Lane, and we've refined the design quite a bit. And as proposed, the project currently delivers, and James has touched on most of it, 47 new housing units right next to a Rafta bus stop, with 11 for sale deed restricted affordable housing units. Right now, there's only 36 total affordable housing units for sale in Basalt, and we would add 11 to that count. You've touched on the other ratios, so I'm not going to go over them again. In terms of affordable housing, that we're slightly exceeding the requirements, and I'll also get back to the affordable housing, to the housing piece a little bit later. Then it provides a net reduction in traffic, because we actually do generate a lot of traffic on our current site, along with the noise and dust that we have. And it creates this high-end, unique storage product that does not exist as such. There's a unit here or a unit there between Aspen and Glenwood, and there's actually a lot of demand for it. And it's a different product from the mini storage that you see. And we'll show some images of what it typically looks like and what it's being used for a little bit later. And last but not least, at least we think, is a big aesthetic improvement on the site compared to what's there. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I want to also touch just briefly on some of the discussion items that James mentioned. I first want to talk about the housing and deed restricted piece of the development, because I think it's worth pointing out how we approach the whole housing piece altogether, because financially the project is carried by the garage condo component. It carries the whole housing piece. So it would have been most beneficial economically for us to just maximize the commercial component. But instead, we actually backed with our first traffic study into maximizing the residential piece in it. So effectively, we've prioritized the residential units within traffic limits to increase the community benefit from the get-go in our approach. However, I think it's also, I need to mention that additional deed restriction requirements would put significant pressure on the project to reduce the current level of housing component that we've been solving for. Then secondly, I was gonna talk about the phasing part, but I think you've really covered what we're supportive of, and maybe we can talk about it in more detail later. And then the last point I want to talk about is just briefly fuel lane. I think it's important to know that our application did not request any change to fuel lane. We haven't, from our point of view, we're not touching fuel lane, so to speak. And while it seems like the discussions between emergency services and residents are really important, and it's an important topic, we feel like it is somewhat separate from our application, since we're not asking anything, and we'd just like it to be considered that for what it's worth, our application reduces traffic on fuel lane. If nothing else changes, we're improving the fuel lane situation significantly with this proposed development. And also, we did a tree inventory of the whole site, and it did come up that the trees along fuel lane is probably the most mature, healthy landscaping that is in that area. And so, in closing, I believe that this represents a thoughtful redevelopment of a longstanding industrial site. It provides a strong net benefit to Basalt through community housing, reduced traffic, and a visual improvement of an existing site. And with that, I'll turn it over to Justin.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Justin Fries with the architecture design team. We also have Anthony Alfini from Roaring Fork Engineers in Carbondale on the line. And we have Curtis Rowe with Kimley Horn. He is our traffic engineer, and he also is the traffic engineer that did the full South Side study, which is why we engaged him for this site specifically. So he's very knowledgeable on the site in that area and how it relates to traffic. James, can I have you jump to the next slide real quick? All right. So I just want to jump through a couple of our site plan exhibits and give you a little bit more detail on these items. Hopefully they provide a little bit of clarity. So we've got the overall aerials of the south side. We've got the Meyer site kind of dead in the middle with the more light commercial uses to the northeast, the Rafta lot due north, and then the housing to the south. We also have Basalt mini storage over there on the west side of the development. As we looked at this, we were in the Basalt Business Center South, which allows pretty extensive industrial use currently. And the 2020 master plan kind of anticipated this as a mixed-use commercial, but mixed-use commercial did also note including very light industrial uses, light assembly, repair shops, similar to some of the uses in that area right now, but a few others that aren't really considered in that currently. And so, you know, working with planning, I think we've been at this for about 18 months or so, June of 2024. We were trying to design a site plan that was mixed use, that provided new residential, but also still protected some industrial space in the town as well, because that, you know, as it goes away, it typically doesn't come back. And that's something we had discussions with during planning and zoning, that there are trade contractors, there are people that just need small warehouse space for shipping granola bars or t-shirts or things like that they can't use their houses for once their business expands. And this type of product, the garage condo flex warehouse product type helps with that. As Marika mentioned, we backed into this design of how much is the right amount of storage warehouse space versus how much is the right amount of residential space, and a lot of that was due to traffic study and traffic counts. Looking at potential other commercial uses would just increase traffic, and traffic is priority number one in the south side as we've worked our way through this process. The other thing with as we've laid out the site plan is you've got kind of more commercial heavy uses to the north, less intense residential to the south, which led us to this organization with low-rise residential 3-story buildings that kind of match with the 525 building just to the west of the project, and put residential right at the front door of the RAFTA Park and Ride, while putting the self-storage warehouse space that's lower intensity with the uses we've kind of prohibited on the south. And that also is one of the reasons we're mentioning there's an improvement to Few Lane because traffic intensity would go down. Currently, all of the Myers, trucks, deliveries, everything goes in and out of that Few Lane access. I'll jump to the next site plan. All right. So this is the site plan we came up with 3 buildings, 3 stories each. We're limited to 35 feet in height currently by the Basalt Business Center South, and we were looking to maintain that, but with the constraints of the floodplain that required lifting the buildings up, and that allowed for 2 stories of residential use. And then circulation for the storage warehouses in and out of the Few Lane access on the southwest. There is a lane that drives all the way through the site, but it would be separated by a gate. Fire department would have access to circulate through, but it would keep the residential separate from the storage area. And that goes back to kind of that mixed-use commercial zoning anticipation on the comprehensive plan, that with allowing some industrial uses, we didn't feel it made sense to stack residential on top of that use, and so separating it from south to north on the site plan made some more sense versus putting it on top, which led to this overall design. I'll have you jump to the next page. So this is the current use chart that's allowable industrial uses by the Basalt Business Center. All of the items in red, we have proposed further restricting. So those were uses such as gas stations, oil and fueling stations, boiling plants, industrial equipment sales, salvage yards, junk yards, health clubs of more than 12,000 square feet. So we've essentially further reduced the intensity of the industrial to keep it at a light industrial type of use. The yellow on there are similar, just smaller. We've got bulk dry cleaning and nursery stock, landscaping type production. Those were allowed uses. We've now made them special use review. Everything else was more like blacksmith shops, glazing, plumbing, electrician, artists, if they wanted studio space. We've envisioned even caterers that want a place for trucks and and tables and chairs to store things there. We've seen uses such as that in these, so we wanted to leave those uses open. But overall, trying to keep it in the light industrial use if someone was to use these warehouse spaces for such. Jump to the next one. So these are some images of other garage, condo, man cave, flex warehouse type spaces that are kind of developing across the Mountain West. Currently, I'm working in Jackson Hole, Big Sky, Gunnison, Basalt, and Aspen on similar type projects. We're seeing a high demand for them, partially because of people's need for limited industrial space and not needing, 10,000 square feet, but needing 1,000 square feet. We've seen a demand of people with UTVs, RVs, boats that, with parking restrictions, with FAR restrictions, to have those extra items. These have become a new option for those items. And so wanted to give you a glimpse of some of the just different uses we've seen for them. And we've even seen, personal vehicle collectors put a 2-point lift in and kind of treat it as an antique garage, and they can work on their cars and keep them stowed and safe. So this is just a quick glance again at that floodplain map. So we had about 4 iterations on this because one of the big problems we had, and we had more units previously, was we had to protect the flow to make sure the historical flows were maintained, but also that we weren't backing up and flooding on the properties to the east. So the lifting up of the buildings out of the ground and the reconfiguration and reduction of storage units allowed us to meet those requirements with the hydrologist. So just to zoom in on the site plan real quick, of what we ended up with on the layout, you can see the drive-through, and there's very lightly dashed in front of each one of the storage units. There's actually, these are 50-foot wide drives. One, it helps with navigating if you have a trailer or a large RV, but also it allows for 2 parking spaces out in front of the unit. That way, if you are coming or going, or if you're dropping off a trailer or swapping out a car, you're not impacting either the other users of the space or blocking any of that when that's occurring. That is all on that slide. We'll jump to the next one. So now I wanted to just touch a little bit more on the connectivity from the 2 sides. So the other reason of pushing that residential up to the north of the site was the access that is already in place on to Cody Lane. So that is a CDOT access shared with the Myers property. It required an increase in the access count. It originally allowed for 5 trips daily. After working with CDOT, we have improved that access permit to allow for the 47 units. It's just the residential that goes in and out of this proposed access. We wanted to give you a glance at some of the existing infrastructure and site components in that area. There is a drainage ditch. There's an existing mailbox, utilities, a telecom box, but we have worked with both RAFTA, CDOT, and town planning to come up with the solution on the next slide. So this is a zoom in of that proposed sidewalk. It wraps around down into the CDOT access and then up to that existing. Through our construction document phase, we would need to coordinate with the drainage ditch, which I think is probably our biggest concern, but in discussions with each of those stakeholders, we believe this is achievable and allows a walking path connection for residential to the RAFTA park and ride. And then I'll jump to the other access side. So these are the existing photos of Few Lane currently. And on the Myers property, there is that 8-foot tall wood fence. As a part of this proposed development, that fence comes down and there's a 30-foot setback from the edge of the asphalt to the first wall of the building. So in talking about how Few Lane improves, we think that's one of the biggest improvements is that sight lines will open up in that area. I'll jump to the next slide. So this is a zoom in of that portion. And so in the planning and zoning reviews and discussions and talks about how we best, deal with Few Lane and the neighbors' concerns and comments, it's talked about widening. One of the concerns about widening that is that there's already concerns that the high schoolers speed down it already, either going to school or coming from school, and use it as a bypass around the Basalt Avenue roundabout. We had some concern that widening that further and making it a 2-lane could make it even more enticing to go a little faster and skip the roundabout. I think there was multiple neighbors that mentioned making it a one-way and even possibly a one-way in. And so, as Marika mentioned, as part of this proposal, we think that might be a separate issue. The draft condition in the packets is mentioning that there should be a financial security to participate in whatever the council decides as an improvement to that. But at this time, we're open to the suggestions and open to working with that. But we think some of these improvements will help, and then that is a future discussion for the council. One thing I want to point out in this diagram is the circles are the existing trees that we're proposing. Just the black and white circles are the existing trees we're proposing to save, which are some of the tallest and oldest in the south side around the site. Widening the street would eliminate all of those trees. And if the street was to be widened or the easement be granted for possible future widening, we'd ask that these setbacks be reduced to allow the site plan to be developed, as we're proposing. Widening the street and maintaining that setback would greatly change the overall site plan. So we'd like that to be considered. Also, we've tried to align the access road into the site with Somerset Lane. Right now, it's a strange kind of 6-pointed star of just roads coming together in that area, and we think this improves that area overall. Jump to the next one. So these are the two draft conditions that were in the packets, and just the high-level bullet points of them were that the applicant was to dedicate a 10-foot wide emergency vehicle access, vehicular access adjacent to Few Lane. The town to approve reasonable adjustments to the building and landscape setbacks to allow the site to remain substantially as currently designed. The applicant to provide us financial security of $50,000 prior to the issuance of the first building permit to secure improvements as determined by town council, and improvements shall be limited to access or safety improvements related to the project's traffic impacts solely. And then the other draft condition in there was the Cody Lane access, which was the increase to the access permit, which has been completed, and then the connection of the construction of the sidewalk and improvement of that existing access to connect to Cody Lane. Let me jump to the next plan. This exhibit is a request from Planning and Zoning. This is a preliminary construction management plan and how we think when construction gets started, how the site will function. The contractor we had kind of provide an initial analysis of this, thought that the best use would be to have all construction traffic come in through Basalt Avenue and down Few Lane and then out through Cody Lane. That would prevent any large-scale trucks, traffic, construction equipment backing up the first roundabout and getting them down a little bit further, and then would also prevent outgoing traffic to clog up the Basalt Avenue roundabout. And while we're on the topic of traffic, so we had Curtis Rowe do the first traffic study, and then we did a secondary traffic study. Both showed that based on current traffic in and out of the site, the proposed storage units and residential units reduce traffic. And he can speak to that. Both studies were strictly related to inflow and outflow of traffic on the site and not to the overall south side traffic flows. Let me jump next slide. So there was discussion during planning and zoning as towards the overall design of the building. After a few design iterations, we've kind of settled in on the next images, what I'll show you. We wanted to look at preserving some of the industrial nature of the site and the history of the building as a steel plant. We also looked at, over on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the 525 Basalt building, the Halley Center that is currently under construction, some examples of the recently completed Stotts Mill residential buildings, and then the mixed-use residential industrial building right on the Basalt Avenue roundabout. We saw kind of a mix of masonry and metals, and so in looking at that, and then also looking at some of the history of the site and looking at the mining history, the metal cladding, and then alpine detailing, and we came up with the revised images you see here. So we have kind of ornamented the buildings with metal highlights, but then use kind of that wood siding that we've seen in alpine detailing, and we have the lower scale self-storage warehouse buildings wrapped in a metal, but patterned and varied and provided with windows, which is somewhat rare of these storage buildings. They're provided with clear story windows and individual windows in each unit to provide just a better user experience when someone's in the space. So that is the access coming through the Cody Lane access and approaching the residential buildings, and showing that tuck under parking and just the overall site with landscaping. I'll jump to the next page. One of the items that did come up during planning and zoning is the PUD only allows for 35 feet in building height. The town code allows for 35 feet in building height to the top of the roof sheathing. So we requested some adjustment to that. One, it allows us to have a parapet wall that helps kind of have a bit higher screening to screen rooftop equipment. It also allowed us to do some of those tower elements you saw in those previous images. So then winding down to the affordable housing side of things. So we originally started at 48 units, and then after discussion with Bach and talking with them about optionality of units, we reduced it down further. We also added storage that you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner. So all deed restricted units come with an additional ground level storage unit in the anticipation that they'd have ski equipment, bikes, and just provide some additional space to those affordable housing units, which is pretty much standard with other affordable units around. And so that was an inclusion that we made. And the affordable housing units are spread out, basically 4 per unit and 4 per building, and then 3 in the other building. And so they're included in the overall development and included in each building for diversity. And they are, I would say there's probably 8 different options or plans as far as square footage and size. Of the 11, 1 is a 2-bedroom, 1 is a studio. The remaining 9 are 1-bedroom units. And so then wanted to talk about those couple of deed restrictions or draft conditions that Marika had touched on and James had touched on. The first one was the short-term rental component. So we saw that there was already a town code that allowed up to 60 days. And with the for sale option, we thought that allowing the 60 days that is in line with town code, that just gave kind of one more affordable option that if someone's buying it at market rate but wanted to use it to the 60 days or less, that would provide them with that option. And so we've added that to the request. On the number of deed restricted units, after discussion with Bach and Planning and Zoning Commission and Planning, it was determined since they're for sale units, we were going to shoot for an average of category 3, just making it a little bit more affordable. If they were going to be rental, we were looking at a lower category, but with them being for sale, they were supportive of it being a higher category just to kind of open up that applicant pool of who can qualify for the purchase of those units. And then the last draft condition was the linkage of completing the storage and warehouse buildings to the residential buildings. As Marika had touched on, a lot of this was a financial consideration, but the secondary concern is, in all of these other projects I'm working on that are storage warehouse buildings, there typically is a unique developer that develops this type of project versus someone that develops a residential project, and they're not the same type of developer. And so to allow for the optionality of two developers to develop this project, we wanted to decouple the residential from the storage. And so we've added the condition in of essentially holding the sale of 2 units and deeding them to the town if the residential is lagging behind the completion of the storage units. So that was kind of our option for recourse and to promote the construction of the residential. I believe that is all I have, and that's a lot. So we're here to answer questions, and we have got the engineer and the traffic engineer as well.
Well, thank you both. This is a public hearing, so we'll go ahead and do the public hearing at this point. The floor is open. Just a reminder, make sure you give us your name, address, sign it in the back of the room, and also 3 minutes is the time limit on the comments. And getting the clock out here, so whoever would like to go first, floor is open.
I know, who gets the clock after I'm gone?
We have John, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Jeez.
Thank you, Jeff.
Miss Mayor, we love you. Start, reset.
There you go.
I got you, Miss Mayor. We got you.
Hi, how are y'all? It's all good.
Good, how are
I sent
you?
you a lot of information to read, and I wrote it down so I don't, belabor the points. I want to thank you for your time, and I want to be clear that I'm not against the project. Almost 14 years ago, Mr. Myers actually gave me his approval to move forward in creating the hobby farm for our community children. He was awesome. 5 years later, in 2017, I reached further in creating the adjacent kinder cottage as a solution to unfortunate tenant issues the neighbors were having. You guys will remember. In turn, that allowed me to provide additional care for our community children there. Fast forward, the vast growth in Southside with only one funneled egress has created many of the safety concerns that I've already shared. My issue is safe drop access for the children. With the children crossing over to and from the hobby farm now, it gives me great pause. Foo Lane should be made a one-way only, east, with a proper crosswalk installed from the Somerset Trail or Somerset Lane, whatever you decide, so that people know that's there. Alternatively, Foo Lane east to Alexander Lane would also be the safest direct access for the children going to the kinder cottage. And lastly, I will never put any child in harm's way. Your final ordinance will dictate my next steps. Thank you.
Thank you. See, we'll take the person on line 57 Fitz 75.
Yeah,
Sure.
John, if you'd like to, this is John Fitzpatrick. If you'd like to make comments to the council, please go ahead. John, we can't hear you. Are you still muted? John, we still can't hear you. Try now.
Do you hear it now? I didn't hit the unmute.
Yeah, we got you
we
now.
can
Go
hear you.
ahead. John, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, super, that's great. I'd like to get back to the traffic survey, gentlemen. I don't see where we did how much traffic is currently going on Cody Lane into the Myers property, and then how much is going to be proposed used on Cody Lane. I'm also concerned that the added foot traffic that you're going to put on there just comes to the original Rafta parking lot. All the way down the sidewalk currently now stops at the upper end of the Rafta parking lot. I think we need to have that road wider, up to like a standard size, and then you could have a sidewalk that people can access to walk all the way down, and then access to walk into town. The other thing that is, we keep kicking the can down the road for a long time, developing and developing on one access. We really need to extend Midland Avenue so we can access onto Southside Drive. So there's two forms of access to our whole side. It just keeps growing and growing. We have the same intersection. I do not believe the proposed future roundabout is going to alleviate the problem at the traffic light. I think we're going to have two turn lanes going down Valley, one turn lane going up Valley, and then one going straight over to the other side towards downtown Basalt, with only one lane coming into our area. I just think it's an overused intersection, and this all goes back from when we all originally developed the bypass and how everything got set up. And I think we really have to have a second egress into our side, safety-wise, traffic-wise. It really needs to be looked at before any more development goes on. That whole property and the whole area was industrial, wasn't planning on adding now residential. That's going to increase foot traffic, bicycles, and vehicles onto a substandard road, and I think that really needs to be looked at. That's my comment at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone in the room, please?
My name is Daryl Grosjean, and I'm owner of 206 Cody Lane, which is directly adjacent to the RAPTA BRT Park and Ride. Concerning the address 555 Basalt Avenue, that's the address that Myers used for their office, is that correct? And that's what you're proposing for the entrance, is that correct?
It's not really a Q&A.
Okay,
Yes.
so my question is, the proposed access on Cody Lane was not historic access for Myers. Lot V, when that was developed, only got its access from Basalt Avenue. It wasn't until years later that Myers said he couldn't turn his trucks around and get them out the same way he came in, so they got that other access on property that was actually dedicated to the town of Basalt from Basalt Business Center East, a different subdivision. It was not intended to be access for V, nor was it ever historically used as access for V until recent years. So the applicant proposes a two-way access at intersecting on Cody Lane, and the location of that intersecting access was actually built too low. The elevation of that holds water, and right where this is proposed to have the intersection of their access egress is under 6 inches of water during snow melt and rain. And in the winter, it freezes over solid right in front of the mailbox. I provided photos for James Lynn. So in closing, I strongly recommend that the town council consider the following off-site improvements, and that would be to reconstruct that access road intersection with Cody Lane if they're going to use it at all, And that would be erasing that grade, crowning it properly so it drains to the north. Right now, there's only a 6-inch cut in the sidewalk to let that water go. It doesn't drain, and that's why it backs up. We recommend that there's curb and gutter and sidewalk all along the whole west end of Cody Lane like there is the rest of Cody Lane, and that there's a proper drain put in that space there where that 6-inch improper drain is now. We also propose to limit Cody Lane access as a one-way direction only, and even if it means making Few Lane the other one-way or two-way, but reduce Cody Lane to a one-way. And then the other option, of course, is to reduce the density of the entire development to alleviate the impact on the whole of South Side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Daryl. Anyone else would like they'd like to come up and speak? The floor is open. Anyone online? All right. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up for questions and comments from fellow counselors.
James, can you bring up the first slide of their presentation?
Of the applicant's presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Just to start on this alone, this is such a disingenuous slide for presentation. Like, you guys are presenting some development in the middle of a field. There's a high school back there. There's housing behind you. Like, to me, this is just such a, like, I don't know if you were just trying to emphasize what you were building, but like, I've sat here too long to see something like that. And I'm sorry. I'm on my way out. It's just so disingenuous and this is not what Basalt is. This is not where you're building. There's like, you don't even show Miss Mayor's. You don't even, like, the high school's right there. There's housing. There's other storage units. Like, I don't know. Your traffic study of one day, I have so many different things to say. That alone is just I'll let other people speak, but just, come on. Show us what you're doing. Like, this is storage for Aspen. I get you want to address the housing issue in Basalt, but this is a drop in the bucket.
Well, maybe we can go through some of the discussion points and kind of break it down. I know we're going to have another similar meeting here in 3 weeks, I think, right?
Yes.
So maybe we just start kind of, because there's a lot to unpack, and we can start hammering through some of the discussion points, like starting with the consistency with the master plan. And, let's start there.
Well,
It feels,
Scheduled for 50 minutes.
What's that?
This was scheduled for 50 minutes.
I know.
We're an hour and a half late.
Yeah, we'll talk about that with the scheduling. But we'll get through what we can today, and then we'll move.
I don't know, this is random. What I didn't hear was whether or not this property is part of the south side fee structure for the water take and the roads and the infrastructure extensions out to the high school.
It is.
It is,
Yes.
okay, good. The emergency access at 10 feet, I don't think that's congruent with the fire departments. Normally it's 14. I'd like to see the tree species that you're talking about that are tall and all of that, if they're spruce or cottonwoods or what they are, if they're even worth saving. The flume, the future land use map, I think to Ryan's point, we need to look at the entirety of Southside in the context of what's going on out there. I think that the hobby garages are a non-starter for me. The drainage ditch referred to, I think, is Cerise tailwater from the ranch that comes back into the river underneath the area over there. And then I'm really interested in more discussion about the off-site improvements. And I think that anything we look at that's isolated by property lines in that area has to take into consideration everything around it and then make adjustments to accommodate what's existing there. So those are my points for now.
All right, we can do it that way too. Who wants to go next?
Well, I mean, I feel like it's probably worthwhile because there's a lot to unpack with the traffic study to maybe dive into that, if you will allow me, Mayor, to kind of focus the conversation at least on that thing.
Clarifying question, when are we gonna get the Charlier? I know it says like you'll keep us updated, but like, what's the time frame on that? Because I feel like we need more information from that.
Well, in terms of the Few Lane analysis, Charlier will likely probably have an initial report maybe for the next meeting. And then maybe the full recommendations would be the following meeting.
Okay.
So 2 out.
That helps my brain frame what you're gonna probably say.
Yeah, well, and because we have the traffic study professional online, I figured we might as well take advantage of that, although
Sure.
I'm sure they'll come back online for the next meeting as well. I'm a bit with Ryan on this, that I feel like it needs to be a much more in-depth study. I'm just not buying it. I simply do not believe that, particularly when I looked at it and I was like, okay, storage units. You know, I have a unit at Basalt Mini Storage right there on the opposite side behind Big O. And I think about how often I go to that. Not very often, all right. Except that these aren't storage units as per your own presentation. And that made it even more alarming to me. They're not storage. They're like little mini office spaces. So then I think about, okay, well, if I bought one of these and I need an office space, I might come and go from there 3 and 4 times a day. So you have 54 units now with people coming and going because it's not storage. It's little rentable office or man caves or whatever you want to call it. That to me is vastly different and increases the traffic. I'm not buying the fact that it's going to decrease the traffic at all. And given that the commercial, and I understand the reasons for putting the residential on the north side and the commercial on the south side, but then you're putting the commercial and all of that associated traffic up against what is otherwise residential with that end of south side, other than Hobby Farm, which is of course a commercial application, but it's a child care facility. And I think Mayor has a point there with the safety of the children and the tightness and all of that. So the traffic study for me is a big sticking point. I mean, and then you look at just the traffic impacts overall. Even if you're redirecting the residential access to Cody, you've got increased traffic on Cody Lane. I don't believe that Southside can absorb this amount of traffic and density.
I have similar concerns on the traffic, particularly given the setup of these storage units as seeming like office spaces or places that people could live. I also look at something plumbed for a kitchenette and a bathroom, and I am certain people will live there. Like, this is such a tight housing market. I was talking to the head of the School Family Resource Center. There are already 90 families in the Roaring Fork schools that live in storage units because they can't afford housing. That's horrible to me. They're not plumbed for that. They don't have windows. They don't have heat. Like, we shouldn't have kids in those situations. And I see something like this, and I'm like, I could see families moving into that, but that's not really the intention of these storage units. So that's an additional concern.
Yeah, I agree with Angela and Hannah about the increased traffic because of the nature of these storage facilities. You know, as you said, maybe somebody who's outgrown their garage, they're selling t-shirts or granola bars. Well, if a person's outgrown their garage selling t-shirts and granola bars, they're not going to move to a commercial space and do it by themselves, right? They're probably going to have an employee or two, so that's additional cars. So I do think that there would be a lot more in and out of the storage facilities than is represented in the traffic study. And this traffic study it kind of reminds me of when we were doing the Basalt Center Circle redevelopment, and they said, yeah, well, this building here with 60-something units is gonna be less traffic than what it is now. And we all said, oh, well, this is just a dilapidated building now. How could it be, how could it be less than that? So yeah, the parking or the traffic study for me doesn't feel transparent enough or well thought out enough. And I also think we are desperate for housing in this valley, but I don't know that we're hard up for 36 more, luxury rentals. I don't think that, I know that you've met technically the requirements for the affordable housing, but with that amount of density, it just, in that few units, it doesn't feel worth it to me to pack people in and only get 11 units. And I just think overall it's too dense.
I think a specific question on the traffic study, and correct me if I have any of this wrong, but I'm seeing 14 trips from the multifamily housing for the AM peak hour, which to me doesn't track with what I would expect from 48 units. Or if there's only 14 people out of 48 that are working locally and need to get to their jobs and the rest can stay home, I think to me that doesn't strike me as the kind of housing we're trying to bring online. So getting more information or adjustments about that traffic study, I think would be helpful, because yeah, it was pretty surprising.
I have a question for the council. Would the council like to hear from the applicant's traffic engineer tonight or at a future meeting to address?
Let's do a
this
future
question?
meeting. We're already way over. Let's get some comments and get the ball rolling. But let's plan for kind of a follow-up discussion on that. I'll make some quick comments. Ostensibly, if the traffic went down, that's great. I'm kind of, I'm a little bit dubious myself, but even still without having more deed restrictions there, without dedicating more of that to affordable housing or resident occupied local workforce, given that this is kind of, we're going to be doing a change if we do this to the master plan. I would like to see more deed restrictions. I think that would be important. Let's putting the traffic stuff aside. Short-term rentals, I think that is including in the man caves or the storage units. I mean, I can see that definitely happening. I can see, you have short-term rentals too. You have more, I have this weekend next door neighbors doing it. There's tons of cars, there's tons of traffic, potentially, and that versus just if a family's living there. So I would, in the interest of not making traffic go any higher, I wouldn't want to see short-term rentals in any of these places. And the only other comment I would make is about the vested rights and phasing. And I think we need to stay with the conditions kind of that P&Z outlined. I'm not keen on the separating it or doing what the applicant has proposed. I would like to stay with what P&Z had there. So those are my comments at this point. More will come, but we're just getting started. Dieter, you have anything?
Yeah, we're beating a dead horse, I guess, but the traffic would be a big deal. I personally don't even think the roundabout out of there is going to be a solution for just the entire south side, but I'm not a traffic engineer either. I think there's, I guess, to sum it up, in my opinion, there's a lot of ask and not enough give with kind of all the changes and the impact in the area, and you're stuffing a lot into a well thought out a lot into a little box, and it just doesn't seem very compatible for the 360 around it, in my opinion. So we could talk about it all night probably,
But we'll have other opportunities. So
I think getting more information next time on addressing Mrs. Mayor's concerns, I think those should stay top of mind. Is that the applicant's responsibility? Is that the town's? I think that would help me ensure that her concerns are met.
and I'm hoping the traffic study will help clarify
with that, yeah.
for the few lane part.
Yeah, I think the offsite improvements are really going to be a pretty big project. take a ride over there and realize the infrastructure that needs to go in and the other stuff, water, sewer. You know, our resources are limited for the number of units we can serve, and the fees that are attached to Southside's fee schedule are pretty significant. It comes back into our treasury, but it's still a pretty big infrastructure project. So I don't think there's really any main sewer. I mean, Miss Merrick constructed a sewer service over there not too many years ago because she was non-sewer. I don't know how many other residents are there. Myers probably has a single tap and a whole bunch of other stuff. So there's tap fees and all the other things that would be figured out here, I guess. But there's 57 units, is it typical multifamily, fire protection, all those things. So there's a lot.
Should probably plan on a field trip over there, not necessarily the next meeting, but, you know, we have that, I mean, the traffic, more detail on that worked out so we can see a couple of these spots, talk it through together.
Well, lastly, I just want to say, because I so value the neighbors in this, in Southside and in Miss Mayor in particular, I would really reconsider your perspective on the impact that your development would have in a neighborhood. Like Ryan said, like, it's not an island. There are neighbors, there are businesses, there are homes, there are children, and to me, it's a little disappointing to have you come in here and say, we're just gonna plop this down here and the impact of it has nothing to do with us. Like, this is all of our community, it's all of our jobs to make sure that we can plan this town together, that we can work together, that things can be safe and workable. And so, for me, I would have really appreciated that you're at least interested in hearing from the neighbors and offering some sort of solution. Whether you think it's your job or not, just as a community member, I think that's important to have that attitude.
I think at the end of the day, for me, as you know, as desperate as we as a town and a valley and an area might be for affordable housing, the trade-off for 11 units for all of the concessions being asked, an amendment to the master plan land use, a height, variance request, the traffic increase. There are too many things going against, as this project looks right now, the way it has been presented tonight, that it is not worth the trade-off for 11 affordable housing units.
Yeah, I do agree.
So this is an industrial use, which I appreciate. I think Myers still provides a great use to the valley. I understand you don't have a lot of workers here right now. I get it. Listen, you just proposed housing, but then you said, oh, we're gonna have some catering in here. We're gonna have some shipping, maybe some receiving. That's not a storage unit. That's a commercial unit. And maybe this would be better presented as a mixed-use commercial, like the rest of Southside in where you guys are presenting. That's not my deal. You guys I get you have a bottom line. You guys are trying to do this. I appreciate it. You're trying to give back, but like, there's no green space. To me, there is not one benefit to this community for this development. And so I would really appreciate if you guys look back and just redraw it. And I'm sure you have something else that you're going to present, and I won't be here, but you better believe I'll be out there. And, come on, guys, we can do better. I just appreciate you coming to council, trying to get a different view, but like, we got to have a more focused. Like, in reading all the letters, we're not going to have any jobs produced, and then there's a line item that says there's going to be 6 jobs produced. So it's like, what are we doing? Are these storage units for cars and boats, or are they storage units for someone with a catering shop? Like, there's just too many options going on with what you guys are presenting. I'm not saying that it's not needed, but for me, this is just one more storage unit for Aspen, And that's not a benefit for Basalt. That's not to say someone in Basalt will not use it, but let's, let's rethink it.
Well, we're good. We're pretty over time here. We'll have another bite at the apple. Anything you guys have before we close up? Otherwise, we should.
I'll just touch on traffic very quickly. So one study was done while high school was in session, right before school let out. Then a request was made to do a second one. So 2 studies were done, different days. School was in session, and those were just ingress, egress out of the site. And the traffic engineer then also previously had done the South Side study site. And no considerations were given towards any of the residential users using the RAFTA or public transportation. So no mitigating factors were added to that site. Just an add-in to there, but we can have Curtis talk about that more when we return.
And we did a second traffic study.
Yeah, 2 total. 2 days total, different times of year. But.
And the second one showed it's even higher.
Yep.
Okay.
And maybe also that, I don't know if you've seen in the package, there's a lot of verbiage around these garage condo units in terms of that they can't be a primary place of work, that they can't be used for housing, how it's enforceable and all that. So I think we have made an effort to address it in some ways. And I think some of the things you pointed out were examples of how it could be used. That doesn't mean 54 are going to be used for, the things you've pointed out. I mean, he has a lot more experience with these type of projects. So.
In other markets, we've seen about a 30 to 70 split of personal use versus business use in these. This is kind of where we've generated numbers from, is that 30-70 split of someone using it as a secondary place of business, which would be HOA restricted, and someone using it as a personal storage for larger toys, cars.
You're saying
What
the
is that
70?
split?
You're
Business
saying
to storage?
70% personal, 30% business use. That's been kind of the industry average, what we've seen in other similar markets.
I think, but potentially the industry average you're using is from Jackson Hole, Big Sky, some of the core resorts of the western United States. We are 14, 15 miles away from one of the greatest resorts in the world, but we're not going to be, I don't think, accepting of something that we identify with that's going on in Jackson Hole or Big Sky. This is a different community. And, even though we're close to the resort, and I know there's a big demand for it, there's a project in the pipeline up valley with the same sort of model for, storing your Porsche and having your mechanic come and work on it, et cetera. And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to separate from in terms of our own identity as a community. I think Angela hit on it best, is what is this group, what do we want to see? Do we want to see storage units that really reflect a high-end client, or do we want storage units to reflect the opportunity for a local workforce, community workforce, to store their mountain bikes and their dirt bikes and their skis at a place where they can access them on a seasonal basis? That's the kind of thing I think we're looking for. And I think if you came in with an affordable housing concept that was a little closer to what we're seeing as the current model, which is way over 25% floor area and unit-wise, it might be more received better.
Yeah,
And I
and
think-
it's a good, sorry.
It's really quick. I think identity even aside, we're all a little incredulous on the data, on the quantitative part as well. Because it's like, what is in there exactly? How, it doesn't seem like the numbers just don't seem to add up for us as far as what the traffic study illustrates.
Yeah, and it is a good spot for housing, right? It is right next to the bus stop. It is transit connected. I do want to highlight that if you can lean into that side of the project, it does seem more logical with some of our transit connected housing goals. I just kind of hearing, this has been said many times, but I think looking around the room, I I'm not seeing anyone who's looked at our little Mountain West town and been like, you know what this needs? Luxury man caves. You know, I think we're worried about that being kind of the linchpin of the financing here. But the housing portion could be good and beneficial.
All right, well, we're solid out.
Mayor, I move that the town council continue.
I just want to point out that the housing portion needs to be somehow carried economically. I wish, and we brought it up many times, that we could do 100% affordable housing, but we can't. We can't do it. Maybe the town wants to buy it from us and do it. We can't. I wish. I'm just, you know, we're an industrial, you know, we're a steel fabricator that needs to move. You know, I'm not even a developer, as you know. And we've tried to make it work, as I said, to back into what I thought was maximum community benefit from our point of view. And we've worked closely with James and Michelle on this for 2.5 years. And we were guided in some ways in this direction, I would say.
Yeah,
Not
we'll all
you're
have
neutral, you're neutral, but
How about this? I would.
we'll all have another bite at the apple.
I will.
Like, you will. We're back here in 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Well,
You got, we all have another bite.
I'll leave it till then.
So, I think Dieter, you were saying something?
I was saying, Mayor, I move that the town council continue the public hearing to April 14th, 2026.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your time tonight and for all the preparation.
April
We're,
14th?
we're looking forward to,
Or 3 weeks.
No.
I don't think we're going to be ready. We can further continue it.
it's 3.
If you guys need to move the date,
Oftentimes we can work
Okay.
on that.
Push it out.
We appreciate your time and looking forward
I
to hearing from you
appreciate
again.
everyone's time. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have item 7C, which is a public hearing and second reading ordinance number 5, series of 2026. Ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, amending the town code with the addition of section 8.8 regarding utilizing automated vehicle identification systems and amending the penalty schedule in Appendix C of the town code. And Aaron, you're up with Jeff.
Thank you. Thanks. Again, I'm here for the second reading, public hearing on the automated vehicle identification system ordinance. Per Colorado Revised Statutes 424110.5, we're required to get approval through ordinance for the placement of the Avis cameras, as well as the identification of the Avis corridors. Through our input through the PD, as well as speed studies conducted by DACRA Tech, we've identified 4 different locations on Highway 82 currently that we believe will assist in slowing speeds. Those 4 exact locations are Highway 82 eastbound between West Willits and Original, 82 westbound between West Two Rivers and Original Road, westbound Highway 82 between Albany Ranch Road and East Two Rivers, and eastbound on Highway 82 between Basalt Ave and East Two Rivers Road. Along with the approval of an ordinance, it would also give us a way to amend the model traffic code 110.5 to add the $40 fine per each violation for these Avis camera violations. $40 is currently the highest that we could charge for those violations for an Avis violation. If approval is granted, DACRA Tech would take the lead with CDOT for permitting process through CDOT and getting that taken care of. Internally, we would handle our kind of public advisement through a requirement on our website to show that we are moving forward with these, as well as a 30-day grace warning period to any violator prior to, this would be just warnings strictly only, prior to kind of going live with that $40 fine for violators. In the past, I've presented or provided quite a few documents. I'm hoping that has answered a few questions. This evening, there are 2 extra pieces of paper in front of you that were late additions. One is a further breakdown of crash data. When I first provided some of that information, it was a generalized overview of some of the crashes that we deal with. but this broke it down to what types of crashes we deal with. Kind of a classification, I guess, would be best described. Also, I know there has been questions about the addition of Avis cameras in some of our residential streets and neighborhoods. There is another sheet there that we have gathered a lot of data through our own speed studies, and I say we, but really Justin's been doing a lot of it. Thank you, Justin. He's been doing all of it, actually, and he's collected all that data, and thanks to Catherine for putting together in the one page for you all there, that will show some of the speed issues that we're having on some of the local streets. So obviously further discussion with Dacratech can happen, but obviously they would probably want to run their own speed studies prior to any deployment of these Avis cameras, if we so wish. I know Jeff probably has a few things to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Jeff?
I think you covered it pretty well. Just briefly reiterate that this is the ordinance that would authorize the placement of the speed cameras. The council already approved a contract with Dacratech to implement the speed cameras. That contract is contingent upon approving this ordinance, but those two pieces are lined up. This is a public hearing, so we should take any public comment that there might be, and that's all I have.
Great, thank you. I will open the public hearing for anyone who'd like to make comments on this ordinance number 5, series of 2026. If they can come up and speak. Otherwise, if there's anyone online, they can do the same. Don't see anybody raising their hand or coming forward, so I'll close the public hearing. Open it up for questions and comments from council.
Just a clarification. I know it only gives folks tickets if they're going 10 miles an hour, but does it capture their data if they're going 1 to 9 miles over, even though it doesn't give them a ticket?
So, from my understanding from the statute, and Jeff, please correct me if I'm correct, but tickets can't be given less than 10.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever violation, like that set number we set, that is where that cutoff is set. It's not collecting everyone. It is collecting only the data that is needed to produce a ticket.
Got it.
Not everyone. It's very different from an LPR. License plate readers gather all vehicles that travel by. This is where we set that limit. Nothing below that is generated.
So
and that's per statute.
We'd set it at 10 if you're going 1 mile over. We don't know that.
Correct.
Great, thanks.
I would just like to, I appreciate this extra data. I would like to know from the company what if this is successful in maintaining the speeds on Highway 82, I would love to see it. You know, I think East Valley Road's a no-brainer. The other ones actually seem not too bad, but just, you know, I love it as a deterrent, but I would also like to use it for I feel our citizens are obviously using Highway 82, but, you know, I think at East Valley Road, it's like, to me, it's the no-brainer solution. And I still can't comprehend how we're not just putting it there also. I know it's not a moneymaker for them. I know they have to make money too, but I would really encourage us to be rolling it out there too, because we put in chicanes, people still complain. I get it, I drive that road, I see it, but like, you know, but looking at all the other ones, I mean, I think it's not too crazy, so, but I would like to know on what is their rollout method on other streets other than Highway 82 that show a great moneymaker, because to me it's a police resource, right? It's helping you guys, it's helping us as citizens, so I just want to find that happy balance. But I think this is great, and I think it'll be a great revenue source for the town, sadly.
And that's not, I just want to say, like, speeding is a scourge in western Colorado.
Yeah.
Our roads are some of the most dangerous. I appreciate all the data that you've provided. And I, you know, you see even, I don't know if they have any actually study data, but, you know, the Pitkin Sheriff's Office is pulling over a lot more people the last few months up Valley. And you see people are, in certain spots, they slow down more. And it's still not enough. People still drive way too fast on 82. I think it's a safety issue. So I hope the public and everybody understands that there's two main reasons for doing this. One is safety with speed, and the other is to allow our police officers to do other work, more high-value work, less dangerous work than being out on Highway 82, just, you know, giving tickets. You guys have other things to do to serve the community. So I just want the public to understand that that is the impetus for this. I do, though, from a commercial standpoint, I would hope that the vendor, DACRA, would give us the same commercial terms and conditions for other, for East Valley. Because, I think this data here is Ryan's right. Like, we need a solution over there too, because it seems like there's a recurring thing going on with a lot of people driving way too fast. 20 miles over on that street is insane.
Yeah.
That's, what is it, a 25?
Well, it goes 15 in the commercial and then up to 20 in the residential.
Okay, so yeah, you're exceedingly fast.
Yeah.
So I would love to see the vendor provide the same terms and conditions, i.e. they're not invoicing us, doing extra, or it's making it worth it for them to do that for us there, because they're also doing 82. And I think in aggregate, that's a good deal for them. And I'd like to see us explore getting them out there on the other, on East Valley as well.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we can continue those conversations with them and ask them to provide those data studies as well, the speed studies as well there, see what we can truly find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could you speak more to how much time this frees up for higher value work? And then what's the pie chart of what we could do with our police time if folks weren't sitting on 82?
Time might be a difficult...
Whatever metric you
Sure,
would
no,
typically.
I understand. I think the best description would be, I think of it as a force multiplier. I could, be not fully staffed, and even if we are fully staffed, having, if we have one officer working, that officer is in one area conducting, like running radar, let's stick to speed. And that's just one area. Then the officer stops one car. Now we have 4 cameras, 4 locations, and while an officer can be in another area in an off-highway neighborhood being visible, that officer can still conduct this step 2 of enforcement where DACRA sends a violation to us, we approve it, and as this officer is now in 4 locations at one time, while still being able to patrol different locations and being available for other calls for service, as you heard the sirens earlier tonight, and still being able to slow traffic down and hopefully reduce some of those crash numbers would be almost more important as we see over but time might be difficult. It's just I think just being able to be there more for in our neighborhoods more and visible, where we can not, as we talked about or you talked about being on the highway and the dangers of being there just in one location. Again, I think of it just as a force multiplier. And I've seen it personally living in Glenwood and how it has reduced speeds. It's been very successful. So I'm hoping for that here.
I just want to echo the comments over here. I think it would be a good faith for us to land a camera on one of these back streets that is not a quote unquote a revenue generating camera. Because that certainly would act as a force multiplier. And maybe when that construction is taking place over by Crown Mountain, and the concern about sort of the back avenue there would be a spot as well, to think about, because, you know, people are going around because they want to hurry, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're conducting a speed study right now over on Willits, there's the cameras over there right now, so.
Cool.
Yep.
And then, I also do just want to say, I just as my opinion, that I highly doubt that if this information that was gathered, and this just again my opinion, any information that's going to be gathered would be 100% secure from somebody wanted to get it. I'll still vote in favor of the safety bit, but I'm not doing it because I think the information of that collected is untouchable. So I just want to make sure that's known.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, I did want to, given that we got a letter from Alex Sanchez, I think it's important to just clarify yet again that it's our understanding that the data collected from these cameras cannot and will not be shared with other law enforcement agencies.
Correct. It's
Under any
statute.
circumstances.
Yes.
That's, so I guess I'm saying is that's what we're being told, but
Correct.
it would not be a far reach for somebody being like, yeah, I don't really care about that, and collect the data and take it and use it for purposes that we see it happening right now.
Totally fair.
And it just to add to that though, if you had 2 officers out at the 2 points, full-time, giving tickets, that data would be accessible as well in the same,
Sure.
in the same way. So just to make, apples to apples.
It actually would be more accessible if we were writing the tickets per Cora request through our office. But this data is not, we are not allowed to release or disclose any information through Cora request per the statute. It's very different if we were the ones writing the tickets.
Yeah, I don't want to derail it, because that's one ticket at one time when we're talking 4,000 cars getting zapped by a camera. So, I mean, it's different perspective, I guess.
I think that's
After you go.
the crux of what my concern is too, is even though the contract says it will not be shared unless legally mandated, I think the concerns I've heard from different leaders in our community, particularly from Latino serving nonprofits in our community, is that we're not working with a federal administration that has been following typical legal decorum on those things, or that would, it's an administration that would be open to changing the law to mandating that data be shared, and it would be a lot more data than our local police force being able to ticket people. And I think there's another piece of it too that I heard from folks over the past week or two, is that regardless of how tight the contract is, or us reading the contract, or our legal team reading the contract, I think what I'm hearing from people and trying to take seriously is that installing surveillance at this point in time is instilling fear in the community. I had multiple people tell me that they knew that there would be parents that wouldn't drive their kids to school because they wouldn't want to go past the cameras, and that really struck a chord with me. Like, we should be a town where you're not afraid to drive your kid to school. I don't think your average person is looking into the contract and looking through the legalities that I think you have really thoughtfully set in place to make sure that this data is protected as possible. Like, your average person isn't looking about that. They just have a lot of fear right now. So I think that really led me to wonder if we could hold off on this, because the urgency of the fear that our local Latino community is having, like specific to surveillance right now, seems to not outweigh the benefit that we'd get. And we could delay this maybe until November, when we know, what might happen with the midterms, what accountability measures DHS may be held to help assuage some of those fears. I think that would be very important to me.
Just make one comment in response to this, that I just want to be clear that these speed cameras are different than license plate readers, where they collect information for the purpose of data sharing with agencies to catch bad guys, but there has been the unintended use of sharing that information for all these other purposes. The speed cameras are not set up like that. And there's the contract, but there's also the law. And the law, again, as Aaron said, is the information isn't collected with the data to be shared for law enforcement purposes. These are also not criminal justice records. They're not subject to Open Records Act's request by statute. So there is, I just want to be clear that there is a great distinction between this and license plate readers. And so with respect to some of the public sentiment, I know Aaron's been, tried to express many of these points in these meetings, and maybe if there's some public messaging the town might do to help make that a little bit more clear, that could address maybe some of your concerns.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think, and to be clear, Aaron has been so patient. He's provided extensive information and taken this really seriously, which I really respect and appreciate, so thank you. But I think the point that I was hearing from folks, even when I explained about the AVIS versus the LPR, was like, people don't care about that. They're just worried, like they don't have the time to look into the nuances of an AVIS system versus an LPR. I didn't know the difference before I read this contract. So it wasn't necessarily realistic to expect people to understand that.
It would be good to have some education as part of this, because I mean, like, to Jeff's point, or even beyond Jeff's point, the device doesn't do that. It does not just surveil it. I mean, it's not like, oh, you can hack it. No. It's like, it's a different thing. You know what I mean? So it just doesn't do that.
And we do, again, we have 30 days in this requirement period for warnings and public information on the website. That can be included as well. Using social media, there's a lot of ways we could try to address some of those fears and concerns.
We can write like a one-pager that really does kind of dive into and explain educational in Spanish, give it to Alex to distribute. I mean, I think that there is a lot of education that we can provide to help, But I think that the benefit to our community, particularly if we take those steps to educate the concerned members of our community, and assuage their fears, is great. I mean, I think, it's worthwhile.
Community Police Academy is probably an excellent venue
for sure.
to communicate that stuff.
Yeah.
I would also like people on council to realize that this is the least here, whereas you could have someone stand on Highway 82 with a camera and videotape everyone for as long as they wanted and submit the data to whoever they wanted.
And upload it on YouTube, like we saw at Whole Foods.
So yes, does this seem like an invasion of someone's privacy? I get where you guys are coming from, but like, there's so many bigger things out there that can trump this in a different way. Didn't mean to say that. But like, it's not, we are trying to protect our speed on our highway. We are not trying to get anyone in any other way. And there are so many other, like, what people are suggesting could be done by anyone at any time, and we can't do anything about it. So,
But I do think it matters, like, there's a difference between someone random and your government doing it.
yeah, but we're not doing that. We're protecting the speed on our highway. I get where the community's coming from. I appreciate their concerns, but at some point, we also have to have law and order on our own highway, through our own town, and I obviously support this.
I think we also have a responsibility to people who are involved in these accidents and collisions, who will suffer harm for the rest of their lives because of people not obeying the speed limit. I do see how it might make some people feel better for us to put it off, but the reality is that it can always go back to how it is right now. Even if we progress in November and it feels more comfortable, that's temporary too. And I if I think too much about how many cameras there are everywhere looking at us all the time, I can get really spooked. I read The Circle, and I recommend everyone read it.
Good promotion of council.
I don't enjoy that reality of the society that we have built, but it is the reality. And so for me, and I really do appreciate all of the correspondence from people in the community on both sides. I have really enjoyed that people are staying on top of this issue and communicating. But we just went through the budget. You know, we continue to have vacancy savings because our police force is understaffed. They're overburdened and understaffed. I think in general, it's a good idea to reduce police and civilian interactions on busy highways. I think that this is something that we can use to make our roads safer for everyone. And I hope that people will still keep driving their kids to school. And, you know, people are probably driving past these cameras in other places and not even realizing it. But yeah, I think that we owe it to the people who travel on the roads to help keep them safe.
At the end of the day, it's a perceived threat versus a very real threat, in my mind. And we have the obligation to try and address the real threat. And, of course, mitigate the perceived threat as much as we can, but, yeah.
I mean, everybody's right. I think in the name of safety, it's the right thing to do. We just need to be eyes wide open and understand that, you know, our favorite buzzword is unintended consequences, right?
You wanted Carvin on his desk.
Well, let me just before we
Do your thing.
So I would like to, as part of this, when a motion's made, you know, if we need to do it, if we don't, it's fine. But make sure we have a full-throated communications campaign about this where, you know, all the channels, like, it should be the school newsletters, like everybody, you know, when you're coming in, like, these are there, like, we want you to slow down. We don't want you to trigger the camera. And make sure everybody really understands. And, you know, let's talk to Alex. Let's really go and make sure people understand this, so they avoid the ticket and they understand what it does. And we're all good.
Yeah, it's the education, engineering, and enforcement. We've been educated to the nth degree on the speeding issue on Highway 82 through many multiple exercises of traffic counts and data collection and backups and accidents. The truth is there's a problem. And we've come to an engineering solution that's about as privatized as you could get it, I think, in terms of who the vehicle we're looking for is. We're not looking for all the vehicles. We're looking for the 3 out of 25 or whatever it is. 1 out of 15. And then the enforcement issue is part of the conclusion of education and engineering is to get people to slow down. I mean, it is unbelievable to try to drive and it's probably just as bad from Aspen to the Pekin County line, but it's really severe from Old Snowmass to just past Blue Lake. And from there, you can't turn left out of anywhere between Blue Lake and Carbondale Light. It's impossible, depending in the morning or the afternoon. I go around the block because I can't cross from the ranch at Roaring Fork and go left down to Carbondale Light. I just go back up to, and then I go back around the back way. It's terrifying. And, you know, none of these acceleration and deceleration lanes are appropriate, in my opinion. The Blue Lake intersection is a gigantic disaster waiting to happen. RAFTA buses are included in this survey, I hope, because they tend to drive a little faster sometimes. And I get it. But, you know, we've spent a long time talking about this and trying to come up with a good solution. We're not targeting people. We're targeting violators. And it may prove to help someone if they did get the data somehow and they went after somebody and we could say, oh no, this is the wrong guy, you got the wrong guy. He wasn't driving the vehicle, or there's a circumstance here that he is legal or he is not. You know, I mean, there's another side to this that could prove somebody's innocence and not prove that they're here without due process. That's what I think. There's a lot, and you know, You know, the thing too that I see is it's a lot of young guys, a lot of young people driving to work in the morning, driving home at night, that are going to parachute, and they just want to get home. Maybe they just need to learn to slow down.
I think just one other area, I think the public information campaign is critical, like, let's meet with Alex, let's meet with the schools, let's meet with Valley Settlement, English in
Not just
Action, like,
make sure that
like,
we're communicating.
let's listen to them, like, hear what they have to say, and I almost wish we'd done that before the policy, like, I think that should have happened before the policy, to be like, how does this land? Are there other methods? Like, one of the things I heard from folks was like, is there any other way to do this? Like, could you hire more police? Which is the problem. The whole reason we're doing this is because we can't. But I think that piece, especially in this moment, is really important to me, that if we're not able to do that before, like, this seems like it will pass, like, going out with as strong of a communications and a listening plan would be great, and that seems to be consensus there. And I think the other concern that I have is, like, I don't think policing decisions should ever be based off of revenue generation, which I feel like I hear people say, and then we kind of walk back. Like, I think law enforcement should always be rooted in public safety, and we can't think about making $1 million to fund buildings that we need to find funding for, but I really just think that has to be completely separate from this decision. And there's our public safety reasons to do this, like these crash data, the crash data on injuries and hit and runs and things like that, that is compelling. I think just for me, the urgency with which traffic crashes versus the urgency that I hear from people about their fear about immigration enforcement, like, doesn't weigh out right now, but at some point I'm all on board. If this was a year from now, I feel like I'd vote yes without questioning it, but.
I'd go along with it if there was no revenue. I think it's that important that we control our highways and we offer the public a safe access up and down the valley. And regardless of who they are, I think that's the main goal here. And it says right on the side of the police cars, I think, that community safety is top priority. So let's just make it the top priority. We can adjust. This contract's for a year, whatever it is. And I think that it's also important to look at these subdivision streets that are out there, because a lot of that happens too. And, you know, we could affect change in the behaviors, and maybe that'll help affect change in the political decision-making. But we're not able to connect those. If we can't connect those two things, then there's not gonna be a change. We have to change the culture, change the wording, change the messaging, approach it from a different point of view in education, and try to get elected officials at the top of the food chain to pay attention and change it. But we're not gonna, a group can only do so much. And if we can control our little piece of territory here a little bit better, maybe save the courts some time as well to deal with real issues, then, you know, I'm all in. And
I have one clarifying question. I'm so sorry. Just because we're talking about revenue generation, and I just want to make sure that I haven't missed something, because my understanding was that the funds that are generated from this can only be used on road safety projects.
That is only for state agencies. It doesn't, there's nothing that has to, or directs it to anything specific at the municipal level.
We clarified that in the last meeting that I think
Yeah.
maybe you missed. Or, yeah.
No, I was here.
Oh, because I asked that question and Jeff said it was a.
Yeah, the statute limits revenue from state implemented speed cameras to road safety improvements, but it doesn't for local governments.
we could start a driver's ed program.
I get the sense that we've landed somewhere as a council.
Yeah, I'll give it a go.
No, wait, hold on. Can I make a motion and add East Valley Road study to it? So that, like, they have, the company has to, like, where are we on that? Because it's obviously a problem, and can I make a motion that says, I want to approve this, let's go, but then also that this company has to add the cameras or do the study to then add the cameras on East Valley Road? Is that possible or no?
The ordinance, it doesn't require any changes to put a speed camera on East Valley Road
Correct.
because it's
'Cause it's
allowed
second
under the
reading.
statute just for these speed zones. So it'd really be an amendment to the contract with Dacrotech. And so if council wants to separately direct staff to bring back a contract amendment, that'd be something.
I'm fine. Mayor, I move the town council adopt ordinance number 5, series of 2026 on second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Pam, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Okay, let's begin with Rick Stevens,
Yes.
Jill Dupree-Bouchard,
Yes.
Ryan Slack,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
Dieter Schindler,
Yes.
Anna Berman,
No.
Angela Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Jeff.
And
Thanks,
maybe
Aaron.
just ask the question, would you guys like
Yes.
staff to come back with an amendment to the Dacrotech
Yeah,
contract?
Yeah.
Do East Valley Road. I mean, it's like this, it's the simplest.
Alright, so we can talk to Dacrotech and bring that back for you guys to formally consider. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And
Way to keep it time.
Thank you, chief.
Jeff,
Hey.
Jeff, I had one more.
All right.
The issue is what warrants, the percentage is based on what warrants the change, whether it's traffic calming or more enforcement. There's a threshold I was advised about that 30% of 100% of the people are speeding, there's a warrant. It's like a warrant for a stop, traffic light, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's our tolerance for a 33%, 22%?
Right.
Maybe there's something we can look at there.
Okay.
We got,
I'll speed by your house, right? So we have one there.
we have our next steps. Okay, next up is 7D.
Riverside Drive stuff.
7D. All right, so guys, 9:30, seriously.
We'll do a brigade.
7D, public hearing and second reading ordinance number 6, series of 2026. Ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, approving a lease agreement with the Arts Campus at Willits, Takaw, for Unit R700, Block 7 condominiums. We got Catherine and Jeff.
Yeah, I'll just introduce this while we're bringing back at second reading the lease with the CA, and we have Anna here if you have any questions for the youth empowerment space. Since first reading, I just add per your request, there is a provision in the lease that TACA report out on an annual basis on their use of the space and the programming. The lease would take effect April 1st, and I just thank Aaron and Justin for their help emptying out the treasures we had in that space, so that these guys could gain access.
Sure, there were lots of treasures.
Mayor, I move
Boy,
the
this,
town.
this is a public hearing.
Oh,
Nice try.
So I will open the public hearing for someone to come up if they so desire.
come on, man. You care?
No one's online, no one's coming up in the room. Close the public hearing. Unless there's questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt ordinance number 6, series of 2026 on second reading.
Second.
6, 7. Should've dropped that.
I did.
That's tight.
It's like a year in Dune or something. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, now they're
Thanks for hanging out.
I'm gonna get to this point in the meeting and make Eloise watch it. She'll be so proud.
That's
Driver's
BS.
ed on the list.
Get to listen to Monk's chant.
Yeah, I still don't care. Mr. Basalt could have been here if you really cared.
Thank you. Item 70, resolution number 14, series of 2026. Resolution of the Town Council of Basalt, Colorado, approving an agreement with Kaiser Construction for pool maintenance and repair services. And we have Matt. Welcome.
Hello. It's good to see you guys.
See you. Thanks for waiting.
Yeah, no problem. I'll just give my quick little. I think really it's all pretty well broken out in the memo. But as you guys know, our pool is a gem. Our community loves it. We love providing that service to our community. It's already been over 5 years since the last, since we did kind of major renovations at the pool. Pool ownership can be really costly, particularly in our climate and elevation. We explored some of this work in the fall. We realized that the scope of work was large enough. We had to go out to an RFP. So this is kind of a combination of kind of long-term planned work as well as some unplanned work as new issues announce themselves, some made louder announcements than others. Some of this work can wait. Ultimately, it will all need to get done at some point. And so we've kind of outlined some multiple scopes and costs in the memo. We're obviously happy to discuss it further. I just also want to just give some public recognition to Catherine, Justin, Phil Gallegos, as well as support from Gloria and Doug, just to help me through this process, because this is not my wheelhouse. So that they've been really supportive and helpful throughout the process. And yeah, as an aside, we have a bit of a budget shortfall, but I will probably be helping that by $80 to $120 once those speed cameras get implemented. I'm kidding. I'm a safe driver. I am. I really am. I don't speed. I was just trying to bring a little. I was sitting back there like, can I make a joke about speeding? But I thought a little levity at 9:30 might be helpful.
Thank you.
I have just a couple. I think all the stuff is like 100%. I guess where I worry is, I'm sure Kaiser Construction is going to do a great job. I wonder where as a town, and it's something we should probably look at, and I don't know who could manage it. I know everyone's busy, but like, you know, I got a roof bid like that. Granted, I know people, but like, I just wonder if some of this could be done outside of this scope. I think obviously the pool stuff is very specific and should be done maybe by one contractor, someone responsible, but the mapping of the plumbing, there's good plumbers out there that, you know, I could provide a list, you know, not even you have to use my guys, any guys, but just like, I just wonder where you put it under you put it under the contractor, then he's marking it up, and now we're in this. They're giving a high bid. As a town, we just, I feel, pay a lot more, hence the $800,000 bathroom, than you would for something else. And so I just wonder where, as a town, when we do these large RFPs, granted it's all under the pool window, the roof is a very easy bid. There's 4 different roof contractors in Basalt. I'm sure one of them would love to put a little sign up there to say, roof done by these guys, and we saved $7,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know, plumbing done. Like, I just wonder where we are as a town on that, or if it has to be done in this like large RFP format. And I get it. These guys are going to manage it. These guys are then responsible for it, so that it kind of takes that responsibility. It was kind of a larger comment, sorry, at 9:35, just to get that understanding from the town on some of this, because I feel like we do get lumped into these large contracts that, as a government, you know, I think we're viewed as a cash cow, and some people might not even know of the RFP to go map out the plumb, like, that's not I'm not saying it's hard, it's just like, there are people that would do this probably for a good price for the town, rather than, not to say these guys are going to milk us, sorry for these guys, but it's just a general large comment.
I like that, yeah.
I can try to answer some of that. So under the procurement code, you cannot break up a project into different little scopes to avoid a procurement process. But I think that's more geared towards like a specific projects. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but this seems like a bunch of little projects that are at one location, not just like, for example, if we're building the pool, we couldn't break up one contract for this lane, one contract for that lane, you know, something like that. It seems to be a bunch of little projects. So probably could go through a informal bid process to get a roof to do the roof scope of work. But Matt, I'll let you speak to this, but the thinking was probably it was more efficient just to have one contractor come in and handle all the little projects that happen to be at the one location.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And I do think you know, without having a great understanding of some of all the other projects happening around town, I think the pool is a little bit unique in terms of that very issue is going to kind of have a light shown on it, because of the nature of the complexity of the pool systems and how, just how all these things can kind of happen in one location. But I agree with what you said, and I also hear that for sure.
I think there's also probably some efficiencies to be found for Matt, right? Not going to
I'm just.
6 times 3 or 4, 24 different contractors to get 3 or 4 bids for each little thing. You know, like that's not feasible.
Wasn't Kaiser the guys that did Willits?
Triangle Park.
Yeah, Triangle Park. So
The
they
tennis
have
courts? No,
some
joking.
experience with the town. Willits Triangle Park, whatever that is. The Burger King. So they have experience with the town. The government RFP process is pretty interesting. We did a lot of that, and it's got a lot of criteria. It's based on qualifications, prior experience, your ability to cash flow the project. There's a lot of things that aren't included in a typical competitive bid that the government's accountable to. So I don't have a problem going through the RFP process, but once a person gets into the system, a contractor can really stay in the system too and do multiple projects, and you can see that, everywhere. They become so every once in a while, maybe there's some checks and balances, and you go out and shop around a little bit, but if they have a proven track record, a good experience, and they show up when something's broken 4 or 5 years later, not 4 or 5 days, but if something wears out within a 2-year, 3-year, good guys will come back and take care of it. So I think if we have value-added type of relationships with these guys and we trust them, then we do it. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing worse than chasing somebody around that didn't finish the last 10%.
Yeah.
I don't usually get into the minutia of a lot of, this because I trust that you understand the pool and Justin a lot more than I do. But I am curious, the hot water going to the toilets, does that mean every...
Don't worry, it's solar hot water, so.
Well, so this is where I'm going with this, of course, as you know, energy.
Steam.
So does it mean that every toilet that's flushed at the pool is flushing heated water?
No, we
Okay.
found it in the in 2 of. Justin might name of the house.
That's him putting his hand in there.
Yeah, in the men's restroom. Actually, no, I guess that's just one toilet then. The men's restroom, just in the toilet, and it's the weirdest thing.
Just one toilet in the men's restroom?
Yep, that's.
Because I was like, wow, that sounds incredibly wasteful from an energy
Yes,
perspective
yeah,
to
no,
be
for
heating
sure.
water to flush it down the toilets. And I was like, we probably should address that. But if it's just one toilet, and then
It's one rogue.
just one rogue toilet. The painting of the lap pool, I'm just curious, because that actually sounds like a rather large project.
Yeah.
And so how much of the $120,000 is attributed to that? And what does it accomplish? Is the paint
That's-
currently flaking? Are we like inhaling paint as I'm swimming laps, like
No.
paint chips?
So my understanding is that it's kind of generally a necessary maintenance step for any pool.
Like a
And
sealant.
we're about at that point.
Okay.
What you'll see when we take off the pool, you can like come by before we do the work, but what you'll see is small cracks in some lanes, and then those cracks fill up with this like algae that is very hard to get out of there unless you're scrubbing down into those cracks. And so that will help just take away that. So it's aesthetics. It will also, it provides kind of that seal. And I wish I could maybe speak to the technical benefits of it a little more, and I'm happy to do a little more research and follow up with you on that. But my understanding is it's something that needs to be done every 5 to 8 years, depending on the product that you're using. And it's kind of like, it's time.
So it's like a coating kind of
Yep.
paint,
Yeah, and so that is a huge line. It is a large line item on the proposal, and there is prep work that goes into it. So,
I would think so, yeah.
it's like power washing and sanding, and it's not just slapping on paint onto the existing layer. They prep it first and then put the product down. And I think part of the expense there as well is just a specialized paint product that costs more than normal paint because it has to deal with constant chemicals and sun exposure.
On the budget front, the financial implications section is really good. Just to make sure, though, we have adequate funds that either are in the fund balance or won't be spent this year. So that's kind of what the idea was, right? We're gonna use those.
So, yeah, this would come out of the post-funding.
Okay.
And as you saw earlier, we didn't expend everything that we had budgeted for last year, so we came out with a positive fund balance.
Okay.
I would also, I'm not against this, it was a big, large general question. I would encourage council, I think everything that Matt has brought up is actually very crucial to the pool. I think the muriatic acid thing is actually huge and should 100% be addressed. I think painting the roof is actually just a Band-Aid, so I would go ahead and just replace it. Like, I
Such
think.
a tiny little roof.
Yeah, but I think everything that is brought up in this is 100% warranted. It's one of our treasures as a town. We have post funds. So don't take it as I'm against what Matt is presenting. I just had a general question on some of the scope of it, and it's 100% right. Someone's gonna get in there and map out that room, and then it's gonna make it easier for anyone else going in there. So I'm not trying to be a naysayer. I just wanted to understand how the town did it, but I would fully encourage and support all of these things, besides that my kids were hoping the pool was gonna open this weekend. So now I have to disappoint them, but that's a different story.
So what you're proposing, Ryan, is the total cost to do all 6 items
Do
at
it.
the total cost of $169,268.
Do it. I would.
I agree. We don't want to defer maintenance.
No, you're just gonna.
And do we have that amount of extra money?
Heck yeah, posters like.
A quick back of the envelope in my.
That's what
head.
Gloria
We
told
should
me.
have it.
Just like that.
That's like
Yeah, she's
awesome.
like, oh, posters raining.
Making other people cry, but we're making you happy.
sign to the pool.
So, Mayor, I move that the town council adopt resolution number 14, series of 2026.
Second.
Oh, but is that including?
Fully funded.
That's
Fully funded,
Everything.
100%.
Do it all.
Do we
Make
need
Matt
to
happy.
amend that a little bit, Jack?
Yeah.
Make our kids
So
happy.
just to be clear, the motion would be to include all 6 of the items.
Get it done.
Including replacing the roof of the pump house building.
Don't pay.
Yeah, all 6 items at the cost of $169,268.
Yeah.
Is that what your motion included?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Make sure. And then was there a second for that?
Second.
I think
Okay.
you clarified your motion. I think we're good.
Yeah. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. This meeting is getting off the rails.
I like it.
Wait till the last one.
Thank you guys, we really appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Justin.
All right, next up,
Can we
have.
negotiate that it opens earlier now since we fully
Next up,
funded?
we have item
Like,
7F.
nay?
I can't believe you're here.
Don't make me.
Matt, what about the baseball?
Chris is on overtime.
All right.
Sergeant
7F, resolution number 15, series of 2026. Resolution of the Town Council of Basalt, Colorado, approving an agreement for professional services with Good Earth Landscaping and Maintenance LLC. Chris and Justin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Justin Foreman, Public Works Director, and I have with me Chris Beiser, Town Arborist and Horticulturist. Before you tonight is the annual mowing and garden seasonal maintenance contract. This style of maintenance contract has been in place since 2014 with requests for proposals issued every few years and annual extensions in between. As outlined in your packet, this contract covers a substantial amount of work at various frequencies across town-owned, select non-owned properties, and various town rights-of-way. Staff would like to highlight the most significant change this year is the addition of 2 parks within Stotts Mill, along with their associated tree and lawn maintenance. The total contract cost for this year is approximately $413,000, which is within the 2026 approved budget. And for context, seasonal maintenance and mowing are funded through multiple sources. Doug alluded to them earlier, but up to 20% of revenue from the voter-approved 1% sales tax from November 2016 dedicated to parks, open space, and trails, 25% of the 4% lodging tax, and any remaining funds are allocated from the general fund coming out of the 1070 fund. So looking ahead, staff intends to issue a new RFP this winter for future contract and any additional yearly renewals. And we also want to note that costs are expected to increase over time due to inflationary pressures, as well as the addition of new maintenance areas such as the Midland Avenue streetscape and as the Lake Modern project rolls out. So we're happy to answer any questions you may have for this year's maintenance contract.
Thank you. What questions do you all have?
Who approved Midland?
I just think those guys do a really nice job. We work with them a lot down at Willits in the park for lining fields, and they've picked up the task of doing that for us kind of on a free basis. So, and familiar with them and watched them work, and they do a nice job. They have a good standard that you guys have established for maintaining our stuff, and I'm good with it. You know, I don't know that you'll find anybody that can compete with them really, especially in the Mid-Valley area.
Yeah, so we do send this out for RFP every couple of years, honestly, to keep them honest with their pricing. Also, so we have that opportunity to shop around as this contract has gotten more complicated over the years with the sheer scope that it covers. I mean, we've got somewhere between 25 and 30 parks, depending on how you split it up, 150 plus garden spaces, all of Willits, more or less, all of the right-of-ways, all the parks in there, several parks that nobody even knows exist in Willits. If you've never been to the Block 3 Plaza, I would encourage you to go take a look. It has gotten harder to find contractors to bite on this. When we went out last round in 2024, we did get 2 bids, I believe one from Good Earth, as well as Daily Property Management. We found that pricing is kind of all over the place because generally the newer contractors looking at this don't really wrap their heads around the scope of what's going on. It's actually why we've really leaned on Good Earth in these years they seem to understand that. We've had a really good working relationship with them, and frankly, it takes a lot of work off my shoulders to be able to trust that they're getting out there on a weekly basis and getting all this stuff done without me having to, breathe down their necks about every little quality issue.
The documentation's incredible. Like with all this stuff, the kind of spelling out everything they do and how they do it, where they do it, the diagram. I mean, it's really, when you guys put,
I mean, the
great.
thoroughness of the mulch map.
Yes. It's
sure.
unreal.
Incredible.
So on that alone, I'm going to say, Mayor, I move the town council adopt resolution number 15, series of 2026.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, guys. The town looks awesome.
Yeah.
That mulch map is made from our tree inventory, by the way.
Well, listen, that's attributed to you and the town. I mean, you guys are doing such a great job. The town looks awesome.
You
so
can have
thank
a
you.
framed mulch map as a
Oh,
parting
you
gift.
can go frame mulch.
All right, last
deserve it.
last
You earned
item, home stretch, 7G resolution number 16, series of 2026, resolution of the Town Council of Basalt, Colorado, approving a contract for design and construction services to renovate Cliffs Hillside Park. We have Catherine.
Thanks, Mayor. Tonight I'm bringing to you a contract for design and construction services related to the renovation of Cliffs Hillside Park. Town staff has been aware of the park's play features and that they do not meet current standards for some time, as was recently identified in our CIRSA analysis. In 2024, a park asset study was completed for the town and adopted by council. That study identified Cliffs as a high priority park for improvement. And in town council's 2025 strategic work plan, it included a goal of improving Cliffs Hillside Park. Therefore, last year, town staff conducted an outreach effort on the replacement of playground equipment. Both online and in-person feedback was positive regarding the upgrades to the park. And in August 2025, council was presented with post-2026 work plan that included an outline for renovations to the park. Staff initiated an RFP process for the design and construction of the improvements this year. and received proposals from 5 well-qualified teams, and the leading 3 teams we interviewed to talk with them about their ideas. The posts committee, along with town staff, recommended moving forward with the team led by Rocky Mountain Custom Landscapes. And in the 2026 budget, under long-range operating financial plans, there is $68,814 identified for the project. However, the proposed contract is for $250,000. This project will require a post-budget amendment if approved, and the funding would come from the fund balance as presented to you in your 2025 quarter 4 financial report tonight. So we're happy to answer any questions you have about this project.
All right, thank you very much. Questions? Who wants to go first?
I was just wondering, what did the fish cost at Albany?
That cost $455,000.
Oh,
Just for the fish, though, not the
for
plant.
the whole renovation.
Okay.
Plus, Public Works did some significant site grading and site prep in addition.
Okay.
I was gonna say 250 sounds like a lot, but given that number,
No, and I think the CIRSA thing's probably the biggest part, and it is a liability for the town. It is the upkeep of our stuff, as much as I don't want to spend the town's money, I think.
I mean, these play structures with the number of ADA and safety requirements that are required kind of blow your mind. Like the swings we put in Basalt River Park, those 2 swings, those are like $40,000. So
Are you replacing the swings there too? Sorry.
that'll be part of the design effort.
Great big replace, right?
so it'll be the whole thing all the way down to, I took a walk there today because it had been a hot minute since I'd been up there, down to like the barbecue zone with
That's all included in the
all
scope that
included.
we'll look at.
Okay.
And yeah, and then it's intended to be a light touch, not, an over the top. It's a small pocket park that's intended to, be a quiet space, but, activated minimally for that neighborhood.
Are all those regulations, are they state, are they federal, are there like ones we can point to that are super helpful and ones that we can point to that are just kind of red tape?
No, they're like ASTM, like material standards and like fault protection, and they're hard and fast rules that you can't bypass. That are, I guess, national design standards.
National big playground, making it pricey.
Selfishly,
At
we
the end
should
of
have
the
done this
day-
5 years ago.
At the end of the day, we identified this as a high priority park. This is what post money is for.
We should
It's
add
unfortunate that it
Cliff.
costs so much to do business these days, but shucks.
Yeah,
It sure does.
Mayor,
Yeah, Cliff Elmont was the only Public Works employee Salt had when I moved here, literally. And he took care of that space by himself, everything else. And I think we should add Elmont to the park, Cliff Elmont Park.
I'll make that.
I
one.
agree.
Mayor, I move that the town council adopt resolution number 16 with a possible investigation of adding the name
You can just,
number 16 series of 2026.
One of those nice, expensive signs that we approved.
$100,000 sign minimum.
Already in the sign budget?
Nope.
Does Cliff's?
Oh, yes.
Cliff's doesn't
Yeah,
get?
no, it is.
Yeah.
The sign budget is separate.
I know, but Cliff's gets a sign.
Yes, Cliff's
Yeah,
gets.
Cliff's gets a sign. Well, now, the park needs to match the sign. I mean, the sign is so fancy.
is there a second? I didn't hear a second.
Second.
So discussion on the motion, can we just, I would prefer we just make a motion to change the name of the park to Cliff Elmont's Park.
Has the sign been made?
The sign is already.
It's already
Oh,
there.
no.
What if we just had a little placard that's like,
They can throw in another word.
They could add Elmont as a color.
See how much
Chris Spicer's.
Don't make it
A
very.
$50,000 word.
Let's
I
maybe,
take it back.
it's 10 o'clock and we're all tired. Let's maybe just leave
Just
it.
wanted to like
We can bring
clarify
back
that.
something to change the
Good
park
idea, Rick,
name.
but no.
We just want to look into it to see if there's like
Put a plaque on it. Put a little
dedication that
plaque.
restricted it, or I don't know. Just
Okay,
to make
so
sure.
then
Actually,
we
the
just wanna make
motion
sure
was
due
just to
diligence.
investigate it,
Investigate,
so like,
We're good.
not my fault if it's
Right spelling
50K.
of all.
All right, it's been moved and seconded.
LMONT.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Silly meeting.
Record.